Hey, welcome into the Week 9 NFL Recap. Believe it or not, edition. Hey, we are the Fantasy Football Universe. I am Mr. H.N. Got me feeling nicey, along with my buddy, Mr. Stop Fading Raheem. How are we doing today, Jeremy? How was your Monday going?
Yeah, good. We should stop fading Raheem. Raheem proved it, except he didn't score a touchdown, so it didn't feel too good. But the process was right. We're all about the process. So, yeah, doing well. Actually, my best fantasy week of the season, except like three or four, really, of my biggest leagues where I wanted the W. I didn't get it, including Scott Fishbowl. Tough week there. But overall, I'm looking at 18-8 if everything holds tonight. So we'll see.
Like it's nice.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I cannot complain. It was a fun week. Scott Fishbowl, not so much a fun week. That was a disaster. Team was looking good there. But outside of that, what up, Jamie? How you doing? Thank you for joining us once again. Yeah, overall it was a fun week. Now I got to watch the Seahawks in all their glory. And let me tell you what. Can we just I think our teams are far too similar. We might be the worst two offensive lines in the NFL. I'm just gonna go ahead and throw it out there. We know the pain. Drake Mays fighting for his life. Geno Smith. I think Geno Smith was pressured on 60% of his dropbacks. 60%.
Geno Smith is the greatest quarterback in history based on what he's producing, being literally sacked on or the threat of a sack on every single play. It's absolutely insane. We welcome everybody. Brian, well done. Congrats.
Well.
I shudder to think how far we've fallen after our 0-2 this week, Jesse. But we were both top 200. I was 201, so it wasn't top 200. But yeah, it could be down quite a bit after this week. But playoffs, I think, are pretty much assured. Just need to lock it.
Yeah,
up.
Points
Congrats,
wise. My team doesn't want to win. We're at 10 wins. We got a lot of points. We're just not winning, and had a perfect week for it. But I see here. This is why I love Scott Fishbowl. You get points, you get in, so that's what we're shooting for. Wins? Yeah, I don't care about wins. We'll get it. We'll just stress it out for the last week. Be like, all right, cool.
That's it.
But yeah, I guess we might as well jump into this fun week 9 and all the chaos that was along with it. So we're gonna go back in time, back to Thursday. I know it feels like a long time ago. It technically was a long time ago, but they did play. The Houston Texans lost to the New York Jets, 13-21. And if you remember, Aaron Rodgers had 32 yards in the first half of passing, his career low. In the second half, he brought it out for 3 touchdowns, 211. The Jets really just seemed like the better team in this game, where they kind of it snowballed and went along the way. For you, what do you think about these two teams? And I guess we could start out with the Jets with Mr. Aaron Rodgers. Do you think, because he had over 20 fantasy points this game, do you think we can count on him moving forward with the new additions to the offense?
Can we count on him moving forward because he had 20 fantasy points? Not necessarily. Can we count on him moving forward because of the new additions? Yes. Can we count on him moving forward because his schedule is absolutely juicy as hell? Absolutely. Listen, I called it 2 weeks ago that the Jets were going to make a run and make a playoff push, but they lost to the Patriots. What? It's going to be really tough for the Jets to make the playoffs, but there is a chance. And the schedule is Arizona, Indy, bye week, Seattle, Miami, Jacksonville, Rams, and Buffalo. So tougher at the end there for the fantasy playoffs, and then Miami at the end. But it's still a juicy matchup and a juicy schedule for fantasy, and the Jets are still alive. So Aaron's going to be slinging the rock. QB 9 this week, pending Monday night. So he's definitely a QB1 this week. Is he a QB1 going forward? Sure, but he's a back end guy. He just doesn't have the rushing upside.
Yeah, 100%. It's the touchdowns. It's like we talk about with all these quarterbacks, right? When your statues, this is against the Kirk Cousins of the world, Dak Prescott to a lesser degree. But if these guys are not mobile, then they have one out. It's yards of passing touchdowns. If they don't get touchdowns, you got to pass for 400 yards. So it's tough. But yeah, that schedule does seem pretty nice. Like we're talking about it right now, and I'm like, I think they're probably gonna be favored over the majority of those teams, except maybe Miami or one of the games like the Rams, maybe. But outside of that, yeah, like they could go 6-2 down the stretch. Have they looking good? It's possible, and you give them a shot. They'll be frisky because the defense is still good. It's not the truly elite defense, but it's a little bit better. Going to Houston, I kind of want to talk about Tank Dell. We finally had the blow up week. It finally happened. It took a while and a lot of work to get there. He went for 6 for 126. Also had a couple missed more opportunities where it seemed like they could have even more on that game. For you, do you think Tank Dell is a top 24 wide receiver moving forward for the rest of the season?
Man, you put it right there, didn't you? I think he's probably got to be. The problem was that Tank Dell only went 6 for 126, yes, but only 6 on 25 completions for CJ Stroud. I mean, without Nico Collins, we expect the target share to be, look, it's a good target share. It's very good.
Yeah.
But we expect it to be even kind of more elite. There's nobody else. Who's he throwing to? Dalton Schultz? Is Dare getting, 4 targets? Probably. So it's just like, why is, he battling with the likes of Dalton Schultz and Robert Woods to gather in these receptions? It makes like no sense to me. He's the clear alpha, but it really sucks. Joe Mixon sucks the life out of this passing offense by being so good in the run game, and that's really the issue here. Plus, Stroud doesn't have the time that he had last year.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is both these teams struggle with the offensive line. We saw the Jets; they're both under duress. But like we saw, if you consolidate these passing trees, like for instance, if we look at what they did with the New York Jets, freaking 85% of the receiving yards and 65% of the targets went to Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson. In this game for Tank Dell, he had 28% target share. He was massive with receiving yards. He was really high in the air yards. Like they did a lot if they use him that way, and that's kind of what they need to do moving forward. It's just like what you talked about with the offense line, similar to Seahawks. If you can't generate these deep shots consistently because you're under pressure, it's just really hard to get those yards too. So Brain, we're gonna talk about Derek Carr here in a little bit with the Saints because oh boy, that stuff is nice and not so nicey. Let me tell you that much.
No.
Hey, congrats on that, JB. That means you are. I think you are in, right? So yeah.
Well done, sir. Oh yeah.
That's
yeah.
Yeah, it's well done. All right, so let's
switch
on.
Out.
Yeah, math is not great for me right now. My brain's not there.
Math is mapping.
The second game we're gonna talk about is the Cowboys losing to the Falcons 21-27. And I don't know. It just feels like this is a lost season for Dallas at this point. They are 3-5, so they're technically still in it. But do you think it is time? Because also CeeDee Lamb got an AC injury to his shoulder. He might miss some time. Dak Prescott's dealing with stuff. Do you think it's time for Dallas to throw in the towel? Or should they continue to try to make the playoffs? Because this team just feels like it's just kind of just lost at this point.
I mean, what the hell else are they going to do? I mean, they have to try to make the playoffs, right? It was super encouraging to see Rico Dowdle kind of show some signs of life here. That has been difficult for him. I think he's a capable back, but it's just this offense has been struggling. Against Atlanta, it didn't necessarily struggle in the run game. It struggled with Dak and in the receiving game, and they have a decent secondary there. But Philadelphia is next on the docket, division rivals, and their defense, especially the back end, has been playing a lot better than usual. They're still not fixed, but Cooper DeJean looks legit, and they are playing much better back there. But then Houston, Washington, the Giants, Cincinnati, Carolina, Tampa. That's a murderer's row of terrible defenses. If Dak is healthy and if CD is healthy, they should be able to go on a run for fantasy. Will Dallas make the playoffs? I don't know. There's an outside chance. I would bet no at the moment. Will Dallas help you through your fantasy playoffs? Absolutely. Don't worry about a potential down week this week. They're going to go off down the stretch.
Yeah, he had a 71% backfield stat share. He had high opportunity, all the good stuff for Rico Dowdle specifically. So they didn't have Ezekiel Elliott. I don't think that really matters, but they like to get Zeke into the game, which is kind of the thing. So I wonder if Rico can carry that snap, that usage, and everything moving forward because, it's still the Cowboys' offense, it's still a decent offense, right? It's not bad. On the flip side, Falcons are leading their division. They're 6-3. No surprise to anyone else who's been paying attention all this year. Darnell Mooney goes 5 receptions, 88 yards, and a touchdown, and he's a top 24 wide receiver. Do you think he is the best bang for your buck wide receiver you can get? It's like the cheapest producer you can buy in fantasy right now with the wide receiver position.
Probably. He's certainly doing it weekly. I mean, if anyone had any doubts, just look at his target share. He hasn't been below 5 targets since week 1, and really that's been his low. He's averaging, it looks like, if the maths, 8.5 to 9 targets a game. Had a ridiculous 16 target game against Tampa. So look, Darnell Mooney is going to be the guy at the expense of Kyle Pitts many weeks. Some games it's just going to be less. I mean, Kirk Cousins did all he could do, but he only threw the ball 24 times, 19 to 24, 222 and 3. That's great for Kirk Cousins production. It's not necessarily great for a ton of pass catcher production. We hope that teams can keep up with them down the stretch, but guess what? It's New Orleans next. New Orleans is likely not going to keep up with them with all the turmoil they're going through. It's Denver after that. Denver, I think we like Bo Nix. We like what they're doing, but they struggle offensively at times. The Chargers are next. So Vegas is on the schedule, the Giants. So our team's going to keep up with them to the point where Kirk Cousins is going to have to air it out with a decent defense. Probably not. And that may come at the expense of Kyle Pitts. You know who probably won't come at the expense of? Darnell Mooney. He's been crushing it. I love it. Yeah, he's probably the cheapest productive guy you can buy. You should go buy him now.
Well, and there's also like Drake London left this game really early for people to remember. He has a hip pointer injury he's dealing with. We don't know how severe it is. It could limit him even more, where if he's on the field, maybe he's just being more of a decoy because he's dealing with the injury. So we'll see. I think if you have Mooney, like you just plug and play him in your lineups each week. He's proven to be one of the more consistent productive producers fantasy. And he's wide receiver 12, like top 12 wide receiver. That's crazy. Let's go to our next game. Let's talk about the Broncos getting absolutely eviscerated by the Baltimore Ravens. And I remember there was somebody posted where they had the top EPA per play of defense, the Broncos defense against the Ravens. It was atrocious. It was one of the worst performances you will ever see. And shocking, this team is a freaking buzzsaw offensively. It's out of control. Zay Flowers did some murder stuff. We'll cover them real quick first. Zay Flowers had a great game again. 5 receptions, 127 yards, 2 touchdowns. They did the Derrick Henry thing. Jamar Jackson. This team looks unstoppable right now. They have figured it out. They are coming. My question to you is when Deontay gets fully integrated, because Deontay basically did nothing in this game. I don't know how many snaps he had, but it was basically 0. Do you think he's the wide receiver 1 for him, or you think it's Zay Flowers that holds that role in that offense moving forward?
I think it's got to be Zay. I think Deontay is kind of a nice to have option underneath. He's kind of what Mark Andrews offers as well, just now on the other side of Andrews. The thing is, they're not even using Mark Andrews. Lamar Jackson, ridiculously efficient, 16 and 19, 280 and 3. Lamar Jackson got there with 4 rushing yards. That's kind of ridiculous. That just shows you what this team can do on a week-to-week, matchup-to-matchup basis. Oh, we're blowing out the Broncos. I don't need to run the football. I'm just going to sit back and pick them apart. We'll give it to Derrick Henry 23 times, and we'll just absolutely eviscerate them. But Zay Flowers, to your point, looked phenomenal. Deontay Johnson does not look like that. Deontay Johnson has never looked like that. Zay Flowers is legit, and he's legit downfield and as a yak monster the way that Deontay won't be. So we love Deontay Johnson. He's just not going to come in and steal targets from Zay Flowers. Mark Andrews hasn't been able to steal targets from Zay Flowers this year. So Zay is a stud. Where is he right now in terms of his production? I'm just going to look him up. He's is wide receiver. Yeah. Yep. 10.5 PPR. So probably 9 in PPR. Crushing.
Yeah, I think he's really good. And I think to your point, what he's going to do, Deontay's going to push further down the field because Zay kind of does it underneath. He does a lot of yak. It's really going to siphon from Aguilar and Bateman. Like, those are the 2 guys who've been solid, but they've been inconsistent. Bring Deontay in. I think he plays kind of a complementary role. But it seems like it's Zay Flowers. Like, Zay Flowers in his second year, he's progressing into, like, a very quality NFL wide receiver.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see with Deontay, but, like, NFL teams do not value this guy. They have not given him deep contracts, and they're trading him for peanuts. So maybe there's a disconnect between fantasy and NFL, and that's entirely possible with Deontay, because I'm curious to see this because he's been a high-end target earner. Even this year, I mean, he already had 58 targets and he's missed a game. So we'll see. I mean, he's had 140 in like 3 straight years, basically. Obviously, it's not going to happen because they had 19 passing attempts in this game. Yeah. When you dominate to that level, there's targets aren't going to be there. So I'm curious to see how this plays out and how if it's Andrews or Deontay moving forward. That's my biggest question. For Denver, Bo Nix, I get it. It was ugly, but he gave you 17 fantasy points. Bo Nix did it again. He's a back end like QB1 in this game. Awesome. Do you consider him a set and forget it like QB1 rest of season? Because what he did, he still got 36 yards on the ground. He did a few things for you.
No, he's a matchup play. I mean, I had a team, we were talking about it, where I had picked up Bo Nix and I had Kirk Cousins and Sam Darnold because I drafted A-Rich. And so 1 QB team. And I was like, oh, who do I play? The answer was everyone, right? Everyone basically put up about 20 points in that league. But yeah, that's the nice thing is that there are guys on the waiver in 1 QB leagues like Bo Nix who still might be on your waiver wire that he's absolutely worthy of starting weekly because he's going to give you that 15 to 20 points that you want to see, solidify your roster from the QB position, and then you can allow your other guys to go off. If you need a ridiculous upside QB as well, guess what? Bo Nix can provide that because, like you said, he's got the rushing floor, but he's had multiple touchdowns in a few games this season. Sometimes Sean Payton lets him air it out, and sometimes that's successful. So Bo Nix, solid floor, potential ceiling play most weeks. And I think he's probably better than a Kirk Cousins, who has no rushing upside.
Yeah, and he's QB8 on the season right now. Like that might surprise a lot of people, but he's been consistent. He gets Kansas City next week, so you're just going to not want to play him in that game because Kansas City is a Boku nightmare. But if he can give you like mid-range QB2 production in that game, which is entirely possible, that kind of feels like his floor just because of this offense and everything runs through Bo Nix. Like if you look at his rushing attempts, he's almost at 60 rushing attempts on the year. I think he's very good. It's similar to like Drake May and the upside of Drake May. I just think Drake May is a better quarterback. So if I'm betting between the two of those guys, I mean, it wouldn't shock me though. Like if Bo Nix is a QB1 at the end of the season, like he's just that good. I think outside of this Kansas City game, he'll be much more dependable for you. So if you have him on the roster, just wait, stream somebody, he'll be good.
Indy in week 15, Chargers, meh. Cincy in week 17. Bo Nix could lead you to a fantasy championship.
That is freaking juicy. Next game, the Buffalo Bills beat the Miami Dolphins 30-27. Buffalo is 7-2. Miami is 2-6, and people are wondering what the hell is going on with Miami. We thought maybe Jalen Waddle would have life once again, but at this point, it's like, can you even start Jalen Waddle? Because Jalen Waddle has been horrific this year. I'm kind of curious. Are you just gonna have him on your bench? What are you doing with Jalen Waddle?
Yeah, Jalen Waddle caught like 3 touchdowns in this game. They just kept calling holding or whatever ridiculous calls they called on Waddle. 2 receptions for -4 yards and a touchdown for Jalen Waddle in this game. Absolutely ridiculous. No, you can't. You can't start Jalen Waddle. I'm doing my best to trade him out in Dynasty. It's not his fault necessarily. It's just that this offense now has a bevy of riches at the offensive weapon positions. And guess what? The NFL has moved to a running league. All of this too high safety stuff that you heard at the beginning of the season, it was a joke. It was memes because like, oh, everyone's saying the too high safety. Well, guess what? The too high safety limits mediocre passing games. And so what are good teams trying to do, or teams that can do it? They're running the ball more. And what does Miami do? Well, this week they gave it to Devon Achane 12 times on the ground. They gave it to Mostert 10 times. They gave it to Jalen Wright 6 times. So this team realizes that, trying to run the ball. And you know what? It almost worked against one of the best teams in the league in Buffalo. They lost by 3 points. So yeah, Waddle for me is done. It's Tyreek Hill, and Achane is getting his 8 targets. So he is the second, if not first, target earner in this offense. And Jonnu Smith continues to be there. So yeah, Waddle is a dead man walking, unfortunately.
Yeah, if we look at target shares from last year, it was Waddle at 22%, Achane at 10. This year it's pretty much flipped. Achane's at 20%, Waddle's at 13. So if you're giving Achane, by the way, I think you can make a case for him to be the RB1. Like his usage is redonkulous. And you saw what he did in this game. He's more focal point than Tyreek Hill at this point. And I don't know what Mike McDaniel is doing. That seems like a very bad idea to like feature your running back to that level. I get it, Achane's an incredible player, but you have Tyreek, you have Waddle, and you're choosing to like put those guys kind of on the back burner. It makes for an interesting decision. I don't know if it's offensive line or what it is. But I mean, to your point, Jonnu Smith's like at a 20% target share too. Waddle's at 13. So it's not even a third option on offense. It sucks.
Can I just defend my boy real quick? 10 rushes for 5.6 a clip. He also had 2 receptions for 16 yards a clip. Raheem Mostert, if he gets in the end zone, has an awesome day. He just didn't score. The usage is still there. Stop fading Raheem. The process is right. The production isn't always going to be there.
Yeah, it's a very narrow edge for him now because he only got 12 opportunities, right?
Agree.
Well, it's just so much more difficult for him. That's the thing. Like he still has goal line work. He can get there, but if they struggle offensively, they clearly love Achane, and I don't blame them. But yeah, like Mostert's nice. Like I like Mostert as like a flex play each week. Like you know what you're gonna get. Touchdown, baby, and then we're cooking with gas.
Well,
to the Bills.
I will say yes, flex play, but on my teams that are RB light,
yes,
Raheem tends to be the RB2. He tends to be in the RB2 slot.
Yeah, I got some teams where I'm like starting freaking Chase Brown. It's good now. It was not good a couple months ago. Chase Brown and like just a scrub. Like I'm talking devil signatures of the world. I'm like, oh boy, this is rough. I would love for Raheem Mostert on those teams. Let's talk about Buffalo. Oh my goodness, Keon Coleman. He had a touchdown opportunity, fumbled it into an interception. This is the life of a rookie wide receiver. It's going to be up or down to talk about. Khalil Shakir has the craziest catch rate in the NFL. He's got like 56 of 58 opportunities. It's like the highest catch rate in the NFL since like 1975. It's absurd because it's super low ADOT. It's like behind the line of scrimmage. It's very easy catching opportunities. And then Amari Cooper's dealing with that wrist injury. He was out this week.
Yeah.
What are you kind of doing with these pass catchers? Who's your guy you're trusting? Where do you go with these 3?
Yeah, I'm still on the Keon Coleman train. He's going to have better games than this. He was just locked up against what's his name? Why do I always forget this guy's name? Ramsey. Thank you.
Oh yeah.
I always forget
Oh, right.
Ramsey's name. He was just locked up on Ramsey most of the game. Shakir was there underneath. Dalton Kincaid got more involved with his 4 receptions than usual. So they just have a lot of options. And it was a weird game for Buffalo offensively. Ray Davis took one to the house on a receiving play. So yeah, it was just a strange one. James Cook had a down day. A lot of these guys had down days because they didn't score. But Buffalo is going to do better. Just a weird, like, interdivision matchup against a team that knows you well and doesn't allow you to do the things that you want to do. So I wouldn't read too much into it. I still like Shakir in PPR leagues. I still like Keon Coleman. I still like James Cook. We'll be fine.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of variance with these guys, right? Because no one's getting a massive amount of targets, so it makes it a little bit more difficult. But overall, yeah, like it's Josh Allen. You know the offense is really good. They put up 30 points in this game. Like you just want to invest in them. I think we might not have with Amari Cooper might be the best guy. I just don't know. I'm just a little curious to see how it works out. And with his wrist injury, might limit him longer. So I think we're gonna probably have them all as like wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 in fantasy. So I think it's fine.
Guys, real quick, we have a few questions in the chat. We'll get there when we get there. We see the Carr and the Dak question. We will handle those shortly when we hit up those games. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe for future content. We're live 4 days a week, and we put out daily content. We're on YouTube, we're on X, we're on TikTok, Instagram. So just check us out and stay tuned all the time for our lives, and we'll hit your questions when we get to the games in a few minutes.
We did the Dallas game, so let's get this one right now real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Dak injured. Who are you picking up? There's a Mr. Jaden Daniels staring me in the face right there. I think that's by far the easiest guy. I don't know why he's available for pickup, but yes, grab that guy with everything you got. If you can't get Daniels, who else would you get out of this group, Jeremy?
I'm not doing Trevor Lawrence. I'm trying to look it up. I mean, I know he's had a few games here with multi-TDs, but Christian Kirk, not that he was like a stud or anything, but he helped to kind of solidify that offense in terms of he was a guy that you had to worry about and cover. Parker Washington is just fine. Whoever they're running out at, who is it? Trammell at wide receiver 3 these days. They're struggling. And with BTJ injured, I mean, BTJ is a threat for sure, but it's going to be a struggle with him. So, yeah, if it's not Daniels, for me, it's May. I like Roger's schedule. He's going to give you a safe floor. May is the one who can give you the ceiling, especially if they can figure out what the hell they're doing there in New England with their pass catchers and how to figure that out. But we saw May make some pretty impressive plays last week. We know that's in his bag. He's going to continue to develop. And if he can establish a rapport, maybe it's Pop weekly, maybe it's Hunter Henry weekly for him. At least those 2 guys help to elevate his floor because they're decent NFL weapons. So
100%. Yeah, I think it's clearly those 2. Like you can do Rodgers and stream them different weeks. Like
yeah,
he's got some good matchups. May has Chicago coming up. It's not a great matchup, so it's kind of just like you know what you're getting. But yeah, like I would say everything on Daniels and then May, Rodgers, and just T-Law. That offense, it just seems broken, man. It's just not good.
Yeah,
right now, so.
I mean, the only thing with T-Law that I'll say is he somehow is QB7 on the week without throwing a touchdown. Just because he ran 2 tutties in against Philly. It's going to be there. He's going to have the option. I just feel like, you're playing with fire if you're expecting T-Law to do this weekly.
Yeah, the rushing just usually is not there. That seems like more of an aberration than anything else. It was Daniel Jones. Sorry. Yeah, Daniel Jones.
Interesting with Daniel Jones, though. His floor is safe with his rushing upside, but that team is awful. So the question is, would you prefer Daniel Jones or Drake May? And I'd say I prefer the unknown of Drake May versus what we know Daniel Jones to be. We know he can get it done on the ground, but at the expense of Tyrone Tracy most weeks, I don't see it.
I would say because they play Carolina next week, I am going to take Daniel Jones for next week.
100%.
But rest of season, yeah, I want Drake May. Like, I don't know if Drake May is going to be available after this week. Like, we'll see or not. Maybe he is. But yeah, like if you're playing week to week, just take Daniel Jones up for a week because Carolina is atrocious. Like, everybody can get there against him. So yeah, I will go with that. By the way, I want to talk about this game here in a little second. Tyrone Tracy gets a juicy ass schedule coming up the next couple of weeks. So keep that in mind. But we're going to talk about New Orleans losing to the Carolina Panthers. Both teams are 2-7. Yeah, that's right. You heard that correctly. It's a dumpster fire for both of these teams. And wondering, like, where do we go with these teams? Yeah, it's not great. We'll go down here. We talked about on the show yesterday. Taysom Hill. Is he our tight end saver? I think I know your answer for this one. But yeah, Taysom Hill. monster performance. Jeremy was pounded the table for Taysom Hill.
We told you.
You were telling the truth, man. Taysom Hill. He's not even listed as a freaking tight end for the Saints. He's listed as like a quarterback. It's hilarious. 16 fantasy points. He had a bunch of carries, the touchdown. Yeah, I mean, what can't you like about Taysom Hill, right? He's awesome.
Tight end 3. Who would have predicted that? Oh, we would have. Toot, motherfucking toot over here. But what's ridiculous is, the 5 rushes and a touchdown to be expected. He caught 4 balls for 41 yards in tight end premium leagues. That is money for Taysom Hill. He's a tight end 3 on the week in half PPR leagues. I mean, Taysom Hill was just Mr. Necessary here against a bad team. Do we expect Taysom to do this every week? No. Does this team need Taysom to do this every week? Yes. What do we do now that everyone that Taysom Hill is associated with from the Sean Payton era is now gone? Does Taysom Hill get immediately jettisoned off this team? It's possible. But, does he see the usage without Dennis Allen? Probably. He's earned it with Clint Kubiak and everything. But the question is, Atlanta, decent front, Cleveland, elite front. That's the next 2 weeks. This is not a Carolina situation. So that's the thing. But, they're dropping like flies in the Saints. Jamie nailed it. We got Chris Olave. There's no way Chris Olave plays next week, being hospitalized after that concussion. So that's just something that we have to consider. Maybe Taysom Hill against Atlanta is a decent play. He's in your tight end spot. You could do a lot worse.
Alvin Kamara had over 200 yards of offense in this game. This is what I'm talking about with Tyrone Tracy. He's going to be a high-end running back 1 for me next week because you could absolutely eviscerate this Carolina Panthers defense. Mm-hmm. It's not good. They should not have lost this game. But this is the problem with these quarterbacks. This is in Jimmy G a few years ago. The hospital balls, and that's what that was that Carr threw to Olave. It caused him to go up. It put him in a terrible position, and then he took the headshot. This is why, Tom Brady pointed this out in the offseason. It's you need to protect your wide receivers on plays like that. Carr did not protect his wide receiver. Put him in a bad position. He got absolutely blasted. You saw the hit, and I was like, that looks really bad. I'm glad he's okay because that was a scary hit at the time it happened. It's just sometimes that happens. So if your quarterbacks are inaccurate, it's just that comes up every once in a while. It's an unfortunate part of the game. I will say for Carolina, they actually showed a little bit of life. Do you have confidence at all in Bryce Young coming back from the dead, or you think this is just the Saints being so bad that Bryce Young was actually able to show life for once in what feels like a year?
He doesn't look terrible. Can Bryce Young resurrect a career? Maybe. Do I want him on my fantasy teams while he does it? No. I think he's able to deliver the ball to Xavier Legette. That's great. He's Jatavian Sanders came out of nowhere here, but like you said, it's because the Saints are so bad. Chuba looked like Chuba, which is nice. We like to see that. The offense is functional with Bryce Young at quarterback, and that's kind of the best that I can hope for Bryce Young. But from a fantasy perspective, look, Bryce Young doesn't really run the ball, right? He's not, that's kind of what we're looking for with this upside. And, we might think of Bryce Young as a running quarterback. He's short. He's, got this Kyler-esque kind of thing about him. No, he's the only reason he's going outside the pocket so he can see the guys downfield over those gigantic linemen. So, Bryce Young for me is an absolute negative. There's no way I want anything to do with him. I think I have him on a 1 QB dynasty team with now 4 quarterbacks on it, and he's clearly 4th in the pecking order. He's only still on my team because it's young. He's just young. Young is young. That's it. That's all I got.
Exactly. I traded a first for him before the season in my one team that was desperate for quarterback production. Yeah, that's going real low. Let me tell you what. I took a chance on him. That's the one Bryce Young chair I have. I was like, I don't have any. Let's get it. And then, I was like, oh, this is not going very well. And then you got to write him out because you can't get anything from him in Dynasty.
Oh, yeah.
Like, here, Alec Pearson a third. And I'm like, dude, what the hell is that going to do for me?
Pass.
Nothing. So I will say Chuba Hubbard once again did it again. Made with Jonathan Brooks, who knows if they activated him or not. But if Jonathan Brooks does not come back, we're treating Chuba Hubbard like a high-end RB2 rest season. So, keep an eye on the situation and how it develops. But, Chuba Hubbard just man. It just looks really good with what they're doing. That's the one thing consistently has worked for that offense the entire season.
And agree with you. And what this team should do is they should run Chuba and Jonathan Brooks back there, 70% each, and just get them on the field together and see what the hell happens. Because you're running Jatavian Sanders out there. You're running let me get names I haven't heard of or thought about. Devin Tompkins out there at running back. You're running Mingo, of course, David Moore. Who could forget David Moore? You don't want to use Jalen Coker, who's looked good. So it's why not just put them both out there? Miles Sanders, 2 receptions for -5 yards. And 2 carries for -5 yards. 4 touches for -10 yards for Miles Sanders. Can we please get Jonathan Brooks and Chuba on the field at the same time?
Jesus. Yeah, the Coker stuff was weird. It wasn't the ideal matchup. They decided to decrease his slot percentage snaps to less than 50% of the time. I don't know what the hell they were doing. It was working with him and like, hey, let's go back to these other guys we know are not good. So that's coaching, that's offensive scheme. That's a bad decision. It kind of is what it is. Before we get to this next question, let's take a look at this one. We're going to cover DJ Moore here in a little bit with the Chicago Bears. I'm very much worried about all of these guys.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is I don't know what you do because you have Amon-Ra, you have Brian Thomas, so you're pretty set. Olave, you don't know when he's coming back. I think it'll be like 2 weeks. We'll see. Yeah. DJ Moore, we'll talk about when you cover Chicago game. He's been atrocious. Like he's been really, really bad. I don't think he's had a top 20 wide receiver finish. Like it's been and Waddle you just can't even use. So I'm curious, Jeremy, what are you doing with this group of wide receivers?
Listen, Brad, we just talked about Jalen Waddle. The problem with Jalen Waddle, as we mentioned, is that all of these too high safety looks, you have kind of smarter coordinators looking to run the football, especially teams that can run the football with multiple backs. They gave double-digit touches to Achane and Mostert on the ground and 6 touches to Jalen Wright, and a couple other guys got involved for a touch here or there. The Dolphins are choosing to run the football, and then, of course, Achane is using the passing game a ton. Waddle is cooked. He will have boom-bust weeks if he's on, your best ball teams. Great. Otherwise, I don't think he's usable. It's really difficult for him. Olave, because the injury is tough. When he comes back, sure, but he could be more boom bust just because of the nature of this offense and how tough it is for New Orleans to do anything through the air. But at least Olave provides that option. DJ Moore is the issue, and it's not necessarily his issue. It's the fact that he's dealing with a rookie quarterback. Rookie quarterback can take time to develop with a rarely support more than one option. The problem is everyone is an option here. It was a Rome week this week. We saw Kmet do nothing. We saw DJ Moore do little. We saw Keenan do little. And DeAndre Swift didn't really do much, and they just got blown out. And the worst part about DJ Moore and Caleb Williams and the Bears offense is their schedule now becomes a murderer's row. It's one of the worst schedules of any team going forward for the rest of the fantasy season. So, yeah, all of these guys I'm concerned with. You got Amon-Ra, you got BTJ. Hang your hat on those guys. Hope that Olave comes back. But, yeah, it's rough.
Yeah, DJ Moore has by far the best role of these guys. He's top 24 in expected fantasy points per game. That is good for now. The issue with this team is Hunt. Pacheco's coming back, so you're not going to have Hunt for the playoffs and the fantasy playoffs, and that's going to be a big thing. So it's going to be a little bit tricky. Your team's 7-2. You probably have to package some of these guys, and the problem is I don't know if you can get the ample return packaging them because they all have stank on them. So basically, I would try to package them with Hunt. I don't know if that gets you anything though, because people know Pacheco's coming back. You could maybe upgrade, but it's just it's kind of a tough situation, I think. But the team
could you do Waddle and Hunt for a still injured Mike Evans? Although, do they have a bye next week?
For the
I
Falcons?
think they're still 2 weeks out for Evans. No, Evans.
Oh, let me look at Tampa Bay schedule. I'm not 100% sure. They have a bye, and they have a bye in
week 11.
So they have a couple weeks.
So if you did Hunt and Waddle and tried to get Mike Evans, maybe the Mike Evans team is struggling. Maybe the Nico Collins team needs a W. I would look for these guys who are probably set to come back, who are riskier. Christian McCaffrey, even though it looks like he has a good chance to come back next week. That's kind of what you're looking to do to package 2 of these lesser guys to go get those guys. That said, let's say you make no moves. You got Barkley, JT, Tracy, and Hunt that you can roll out weekly. You could roll out those guys every single week as long as they're the starters, right? And then, of course, you got Amon-Ra and BTJ. That's a solid lineup. I don't know who you got at tight end, but that's a really interesting one. And I do like this one. Again, Tracy and Hunt. Jaden Reed, I'm not giving up 2 running backs for a wide receiver. That's my only issue there. And Tracy, Jesse, are the Giants next? Is that what we're talking
about? The Giants are a little ways down, I think. We can jump to them. We can move around.
Yeah. Let's jump into the Giants because we're going to talk about Tyrone Tracy, and then, we'll have to talk about Bowers as well. But, the only issue I have here is not necessarily the players involved, but you're giving up 2 running backs for a wide receiver. No, thank you.
Well, to be real, I'm just going to prefer Tracy straight up over him. So that's where I'm at with Tracy, but I obviously have some very big bias to try on Tracy. So, I think he's a really good player, really good situation.
Hard to argue.
And the schedule is money down the stretch. So like Tracy's not. That's why I didn't want you to trade Tracy because that schedule is like juicy as hell. He's going to produce fantasy points. Obviously, there's injury concerns, but that's like. All right, let's jump to that game, and then we'll come back to the Raiders game. Washington beats the Giants 27-22. Daniel Jones had a really, really good game because he had 54 yards on the ground. He had a rushing touchdown.
Trucking dudes.
Did not get there. Yeah. Eckler split. It was not the bell cow usage we thought Eckler was got. He really split the rushing opportunities. Had like 18% target share. It was really good. But overall, like Washington did what they needed to do. Terry McLaurin, 2 touchdowns. He had 19 yards, but he still gave you 15 fantasy points because 2 touchdowns. Ertz did nothing. Let's go to I'm all over the place. Sorry. With the Giants, do you think you could start Danny Dimes weekly? Because he put up 26 fantasy points in this game. Like he was really good. And I think points per game basis, he's actually pretty good on the year.
The answer is no. I think he's going to be a matchup dependent play. Daniel Jones is just, he's only thrown. So let's see. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games this season. He's only played 9. In a majority of Daniel Jones's games, he has not thrown a touchdown pass. That just shows you the volatility of this man. In the other 4 games, he's thrown 2 touchdown passes in every single game. So it just shows you the volatility here. Now, you mentioned it earlier. He plays Carolina this next week. He's going to crush. Daniel Jones is going to crush through the air. He's going to crush on the ground. Tyron Tracy is going to go off, and then they get a bye. They try to regroup. Look, the Giants aren't going to kind of fool anybody and make the playoffs here. They're 2-7. But at the same time, they do have an opportunity to go on a little bit of a fantasy run here. You were mentioning the schedule. Carolina by Tampa, Dallas, New Orleans over the next 5 weeks.
That's absurd.
Man, they're going to crush it, all of them. Yeah.
You could roll. I think you could roll Daniel Jones out the next month consistently.
You probably
You're going to get points because he like the thing about him is he rushes. It's just like he's going to. There's going to be a point in one of these games he makes some bonehead decisions. You have to live with this. This is just the aspect of Daniel Jones. But yeah, man, there's fantasy points galore. Tampa Bay gives up the most fantasy points to the quarterback. We just saw New Orleans lose the freaking Carolina Panthers. Like that's the Saints' issues. Dallas' defense is just a struggle bus right now. So I think playing Giants is very good the next month. They do have Baltimore after that. It gets a little bit treacherous, but like even in the playoffs, their schedule is pretty good. So I'm fine with Daniel Jones. Like if you want to roll with him the majority of the next month, you need a backup plan because as good as these plans are with Daniel Jones, he's Daniel Jones. They can go to shit. That's just the Daniel Jones lifestyle it is with him. So,
but we started this talking about Tyron Tracy. So that's the thing. Also, these offenses can be had. Tyron Tracy is literally the only guy outside of Malik Neighbors that can be trusted weekly. Wan'Dale Robinson almost had a touchdown in this game that was called back. Guess what? It didn't matter because it was like a 3-yard touchdown. He would have finished with 4 receptions for 13 yards and a touchdown. Instead, he's just 3 receptions for 10 yards. Wan'Dale's unusable. Doesn't matter the number of targets that he's getting. He hasn't been usable for the last 5 weeks, right? He had 2 decent games in the beginning, one with a touchdown beginning of the season. Now it's not happening for him. And then who else are you looking at? Theo Johnson? Not really. He got in the end zone this game, but that doesn't often happen for him. It's Tyron Tracy, it's Malik Neighbors, and Daniel Jones if you have to.
Yeah, the receiving game, Malik Neighbors like ADOT is atrocious. Like this is just he's really good. He's a yak god. It is what it is. It's just kind of like those other guys would get the Wan'Dale stuff's over. Like it's just like he's not a part of that offense anymore. Singleton. Yeah, it's really those 2 options. So yeah, if you have those guys, you're feeling good. If you don't, it's kind of up or down. Terry McLaurin, we talked about 2 touchdowns this game. He's a menace. Like where are we ranking him the rest of the season? Is he top 12 wide receiver? Because I feel like that's a discussion we need to have with him because he's been awesome this entire year. He has Jay Daniels as quarterback. No target competition. It's setting up for him. The weird thing is he only got 3 targets in this game. That's the very weird thing. They didn't need him. But like there's some tough and some good matchups like Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Dallas, Tennessee. It's kind of all over the place with these matchups. So where are you treating Terry McLaurin the rest of the season?
Yeah, it's hard because when you see the Giants put up 22 points, you get the sense that anyone can score on the 7-2 Commanders defense. That hasn't been the case though, right? Chicago really struggled with them last week. Chicago's no barn burner offense with their rookie QB, but they're decent, right? Again, the Giants the same, they're decent. But when you have more concerning teams like Dallas, if they can get it together on your schedule, use Philly, certainly. You're going to have weeks where you really struggle on defense and need to keep up. The problem is when you don't need to keep up, Jaden Daniels only throws 22 times, and getting it to Terry can become treacherous. Now, Noah Brown, 5 for 60. Yeah, great. But Terry McLaurin's really the guy that needs to get these touches. Is he going to be a wide receiver 1 the rest of the season? Yes. Do I have any concerns about that? No. I think it's Terry to the moon. He is a half PPR wide receiver 6
Yeah,
on the season with his 6 touchdowns on the year.
Yeah, he's been really, really good this entire year. He's getting the touchdowns. He's getting the yards. This was the lowest yards he's had. Oh, second lowest yards he had. The first 2 weeks were really bad for him. Outside of that, his wide receiver finishes are awesome. He's been really good. He hasn't been below double-digit fantasy points the entire time since then. Since his week 8 points in week 2, the lowest he's had was I think it's 13. He's had multiple times over 20. It's been really he's really good. So I'm happy we finally get this Terry McLaurin-ish thing happening. Took us about 5 years, it felt like, but we finally got there. Let's jump to Cincinnati and the Vegas, and oh boy, is Vegas a freaking disaster. Let's cover Vegas. They lose 41 to 24. It's just so bad. Desmond Ridder, I don't know what to tell you about this offense. Was Luke Getsy the problem? Because it seems like he's the scapegoat for this entire situation. How do you fix this situation, right? It just doesn't seem like it's any better.
It's hard to see Luke Getsy as the problem when he puts in Desmond Ridder out of desperation and he looks decent, right? You couldn't get anything going on the ground. What's his name? Hendrickson, right? Had 4 sacks in this game. When you can't protect your quarterback, it doesn't matter who is back there. Oh crap. Well, we have to talk about this really quick because sorry, breaking news. Cowboys, Dak Prescott's hamstring injury is worse than initially feared. He's expected to miss multiple weeks. Sources tell me,
throwing the towel,
and Tom Pelissero, in fact, it's not looking like a short-term injury for the Dallas QB. Crap.
If I'm CeeDee Lamb, I'm sitting out a long ass time. I'm not doing the Cooper Rush stuff. I'm not. Yeah, this is so as much as we like Rico Dowdle, what we're seeing. If he's not Dak or Prescott, which is not that's just offense is going to be a disaster. It's going to be bad news and. The Cowboys might be looking at a really bad record here coming up, so they could tank for this. I think they should. I don't know if they're going to, but you lose Dak Prescott, you have CeeDee Lamb dealing an injury. You have basically none of your key points there. The D line still coming back. It's just it's a disaster.
Philly next week, big L. Houston, let's say they win it. Washington, L. Giants, right, without Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. Right.
Lose.
Let's say they win it. Cincy, L. Right. So now you're 2-3. Carolina. So Tampa, Philly, Washington. So look, it's not looking good for Dak. I think for Dallas. I think if Dak misses multiple weeks here and they don't go on some sort of winning streak, they're definitely out of the playoffs. And then what do they do at the end of the season? You're saying they got to rebuild. It's just looking like a mess in Dallas. I guess Rico Dowdle and no one else.
Yeah, it's rough. And to Jamie's point, Cooper Rush was the backup. He played the entire time that Dak Prescott went out. I don't think they're going to give Trey Lance. They traded for him, but clearly, if Trey Lance was ready, he would have been the backup, right? You're losing.
Let's see it. Let's see it, though. Let's see it.
I mean, they should give it a shot, but clearly something's off with Trey Lance if he can't get the backup job there. So it's just it's like a much worse version of the Anthony Richardson thing where he's just it's just done for him. So unfortunately, the Trey Lance days of first round Superflex startup drafts, woo boy, those were fun times. But back to Vegas, I think the only guy you can count on is Jacoby Myers. He's doing on Brock Bowers too, but for the wide receiver, Jacoby Myers, double-digit targets. He did it again. Even with this terrible quarterback situation, I don't think it really matters. He's just been consistent. He gives you another good game, 105 yards. I know we talked about Mooney being a super cheap producer. Jacoby Myers is the other guy. There's no target competition. Trey Tucker, nothing. It's him and Bowers. The thing is, Bowers has been good. It's a lot easier for him to give you difference making production at tight end than it is Myers because the competition is so much deeper at wide receiver, right? But Jacoby Myers has been really good. I think he's top 20. What is he? 26. He's top 26 wide receiver this season. So I think he could be a borderline wide receiver 2 guy that you're playing. It sounds ugly, but he'll give you points. So
100%. And then Alexander Madison, I know he had a bad game. Miami, Denver, Kansas City does not look good. It loosens up later on. You probably can't trust him with the bye here for the next month. After that, Tampa, Atlanta, Jacksonville. It looks pretty nice for the fantasy playoffs. But if you have a deep roster, then you're benching Madison for the foreseeable future. You probably can't trade him, but maybe he's a trade for candidate if you're, 6-2 or after this week, 6-3, 7-2, and you're cruising to the playoffs. He has a nice schedule there.
The weird thing is they gave Zamir White and Abdullah some work in this game more than, and this gets into what Antonio Pierce was
They were
talking
trailing.
about.
They were trailing for Abdullah.
We need to get him in the game. I know it should be the Madison thing, right? He should be getting the receptions and all that stuff. He didn't. I don't know what changed because he had 2 back-to-back games. So I'm kind of curious to see this with Madison. I think it's a very risky play if you're significantly counting him on for RB2 production. He can get there, but like it's just like I'm a little bit more concerned than I was going into this week.
Do we have a Raiders OC named yet?
I have not heard it. I don't know.
I'm looking at it right now.
I don't know how much it matters, to tell you the truth. It's basically like Myers, Bowers, and then possibly the running backs, because if they give all of the solid work.
So they fired their entire offensive coaching staff in Las Vegas. It's not just Getsy, it's 2 other offensive coaches as well. The QB coach and the O-line coach. So they basically just cleared house, and Antonio Pierce is a defensive guy.
Yeah, he's not
what
offensive.
The hell are they going to do? Gardner Minshew just, run around. I mean, he was doing that anyway, right? Just run wild back there for the rest of the season, I guess.
Yeah, I think and like Pierce, like the defense has not been good. He's supposed to be a defensive guy. The defenses suck. So I don't know. Like this just feels like you have to just start literally tanking if you're the Raiders to get the best pick possible to do that, because this team just seems like they're completely lost. It's just it's not good. Yeah. But I'm with you on that, because Bateman particularly gets more target competition. Zay Flowers was always the guy over Bateman. And then there's Mark Andrews. It's really hard for Bateman. Now it's basically impossible for Bateman. Like, I don't know how he gets in there. Like, he's going to give you maybe some deep shots, but outside of that, like, he's not going to be top 2 guy on the team. So it's just like, it's rough. It is what it is.
Jesse, before we move on, let's just hit up some of these questions. We have a few in the chat. So Big Mac Brad says, would you do Waddle and Hunt for Debo? I would.
Yes. I'll take either one of these guys. I take Debo just because Debo's a difference maker. McCaffrey's coming back, so it might limit Debo a little bit, but like Debo's going to play better than Evans, right? Like, so there's no Ayuk. It's still, I guess, the big 3, right? It's McCaffrey, it's Debo, and it's Kittle. Like, you're fine with that. They don't have the 4th person in there. As long as they don't have the 4, you can do the big 3. It'll be a little bit variance, kind of like Falcons, but they'll be good. If I just take either of these guys, to tell the truth. Like, if you just give me either one of them, I'm fine with that. I prefer Debo, but I'll shoot this out for the both teams.
Yeah, and especially because you have Bowers at tight end. Absolutely. I know you feel the need for this wide receiver. These are the moves that I'm going after. Debo, Evans. We just mentioned Jacoby. I mean, you don't have to give up that much to go get Jacoby, to go get Mooney. You can give up less. You could probably just do a hunt for Jacoby or a hunt for Mooney straight up. That might be the option too. But I like the hunt and Waddle for Debo. Give it a shot. See what happens.
Yeah, like there's going to be some changes in this offense, so I'm curious how they structure the Vegas offense moving forward. Like, different offensive coordinators will use players differently, so we have to keep that in mind.
Sure.
The running back room, I don't trust it at all. Like, I don't know how 100%. It's going to go. Wide receiver, we'll see. But yeah, that's the move I want to make for sure.
Let's move to John's question. What is up, John? Up 11 points. Rachaad White, can he get there?
Yes, he can. This is the problem, because Rachaad White's the good pass catcher, and he has a really easy path to getting there. Because if he gets 5 receptions, all he needs is a few yards on top of that. Like, you're halfway there pretty much. So yeah, this is what worries me. This one's gonna be very close. It's gonna be a nail biter. I think Rachaad White gets you there. Like, he's gonna get over that. So I'm thinking you're gonna lose, but you never know. Maybe it really becomes a big Bucky game. Maybe Sean Tucker has plays a big role. We don't know. It's gonna be tough. Like, I'll just say that.
Listen, it's gonna be tough. What I think is Bucky had 7 targets and 7 receptions last week. It didn't limit Rachaad White in the receiving game, but it has the potential to, right? We know Mike Evans is not suiting up for this game. We know that Jalen McMillan is looking iffy. I don't know if that's been confirmed, but he had the hamstring injury earlier this week in practice. We know that, Raheem Jarrett is a hot pickup right now, because we just don't know who to trust running routes out there other than Cade Otton. And so it's nice that it's just kind of a condensed target share in the passing game with these 2 backs involved. So I think Rachaad White will have the volume to get there. I just really think going up against the best defense in the league in Kansas City, that's really going to be the issue, but it'll be close.
Yeah, the rushing yards won't be there for these guys. Like, it's going to be hard.
He's got to score, basically.
Like, I think he can get there in the receiving game. Like, I think just because of his role. Like, so we'll see. It's tough. Let's talk about Cincinnati. Chase Brown, he's doing his thing. Like, Chase Brown's been really, really good ever since Zach Moss did not play in this game. Not a single running back had a touch besides Chase Brown in this game. 32 opportunities, absurd usage, 157 yards, touchdown. Like, this is high-end RB1 stuff. My question to you is, do you trust it? And how high are you going to rank him moving forward? Because out of the control usage for him this game.
One thing that I'm curious about, and it's the one thing that has limited Chase Brown's opportunities all season and even last year, is when Chase Brown was in for those receiving opportunities, was his pass protection good enough? I don't think it needs to be great. It doesn't need to be Zach Moss level. Zach Moss is the better pass protector. Fine, who cares? I think the issue is, can Chase Brown do enough to keep Joe Burrow healthy? And because he's dynamic enough, obviously, in the run game and the pass game, and much more dynamic than Zach Moss or anybody else back there. And that's really the question I have. If the answer is, yeah, he does enough, then Chase Brown should see, he won't see this monster usage, but he should see the majority of the work in both the run game and the pass game. If Chase Brown is still struggling with that, and we'll have to see when they're up against a better team than the Raiders, then Zach Moss could just, resume that pass protector role and then see a majority of those passing game opportunities, which caps Chase Brown's ceiling. So I'm concerned.
Yeah, the next two games are against the Ravens and the Chargers. So we will see rather quickly. And then they have a bye and then Pittsburgh on top of that. So there's some really good. The Baltimore Ravens can get pressure. They suck against the pass, but they can still get pressure. So these three defenses cause a good amount of pressure. So we'll see. I don't know when Zach Moss is coming back this week. They have a bye in a couple weeks. We'll see. But yeah, that's the one concern, right? Because this is clearly if Zach Moss is out, this Chase Brown's backfield, and he's going to get a ton of work. So that's kind of what we have to see. I think Chase Brown's an RB2 with upside each week with Zach Moss. Without Zach Moss, he's a mid-range RB1 with that type of usage. That's absurd. I don't know how sticky that is because that just seems like a super outlier game because they were dominating the Raiders, right? They're let's just give Chase Brown the rock. We'll say those. Against Baltimore, they're going to have to pass a ton against these teams, so we'll see. Let's go to our next game because that was a fun one. The Chargers really put the clamps on the Cleveland passing attack. The Jameis Winston thing ends in just awfulness. It did not go well in this game. The Chargers just look like the much better team. Cleveland just really couldn't stop the Chargers. Overall, just not a good game for them. So I guess my question to you is, are we still sleeping on J.K. Dobbins? Because J.K. Dobbins is continuing to do it. J.K. Dobbins has been awesome. I'm not sure on his points per game basis. He is RB13. He has been really, really good. Do you have questions about J.K. Dobbins moving forward? I'll say that.
I don't. I just don't know why I can't sell him on my tanking teams to teams who are contention. Nobody wants to buy damn J.K. Dobbins. That's the real issue for me. I have him on a team that absolutely went off. I just sold him in a Debbie league for Jalen Wright in a severely depleted second. I was happy with that in a rebuild. At the same time, that's not what J.K. Dobbins is worth, right? J.K. Dobbins should be worth more than that. 2 more touchdowns in this game on just 14 opportunities. He even saw 2 catches in this game, which is not necessarily a staple of J.K. Dobbins' role. He just continues to roll here. Nobody else comes close in terms of touches. You cannot sleep on J.K. Dobbins. He's doing it against the elite of the elite teams in the Browns. This offense just runs through him. And then because of him and all of his volume, Herbert can do the play action passing game and he can find guys downfield. So it's clicking. It's working for the Chargers here. They're 5-3. I expect them to be very much in the playoff conversation. I expect them to make the playoffs. The defense is playing good enough and everyone's healthy right now. So knock on wood, that's never been the case for the Chargers. But yeah, I think they're probably healthy because you know what? Now the offense holds the ball for a shit ton of time. And the defense doesn't have to be out there all the time.
Right. That's the thing. It's so much better. Just an ecosystem that works for everybody and the offense and the defense. Because before they were counting Justin Herbert to throw it 40 times a game. They're clearly not doing that. They figured it out. Congrats to them to figure out that defense. That defense is so much better with what they're doing on that team. So congrats to Harbaugh. He's a really good coach. No surprise. That team looks a lot better. We'll see how it goes. I'm curious to see if they can continue this throughout the season because they still have some deficiencies. The offense line's not moving great. Still missing a couple playmakers, but overall it looks good, man. It's just it kind of is what it is. I want to hit this question before we cover Cleveland. Who would you pick up? Because this is a keeper league. They would have the 16 round tag, so these guys would be dirt cheap. Would you drop AR for any of these guys? Because I think for me, I'm just going to take Drake May because I think he's the best talent. But would you take McCarthy, Bo Nix, or Drake May and drop AR? Or are you going to keep AR?
Yeah, so six man, I get it. It's a consideration. I have a 12-man keeper league. It's just 2 keepers. So it's more redraft than it is, dynasty side. I drafted AR this season 5th Maybe 5th round sounds about right. It's 5th or
Yeah.
6th. I forget what it was. I dropped him straight up for Bo Nix last week. So, Anthony, I can't do it with Anthony Richardson. What are you keeping him for? For what? Like, I get it. We have the upside here, but he's not getting playing time for Joe Flacco. What is Jim Irsay? What is the mind of Jim Irsay and Chris Ballard going to come up with to make Anthony Richardson a phenomenal keeper value next year? I think the answer is probably not much. And, go get Bo Nix or Drake May. JJ McCarthy, I get the stash, but I'm going to get a guy who's going to learn on the job now as opposed to next year. I like May, but yeah, Nix, I don't mind.
Yeah, I think it's really just depends on your preference with these guys. If you prefer any one of them, I would take them. I'm fine. Because like the Anthony Richardson stuff's great in theory, but like it's the offense just doesn't seem very good right now. So like, yeah, I'm fine dropping him. I think Drake May's a really, really good young NFL quarterback. So I'm always just gonna bet on talent. And like imagine if he gets a good wide receiver next year, right? They add somebody to that.
T. Higgins.
Yes, let's do it. They add the offensive line, all of a sudden that offense is cooking. Drake May will be doing some really, really good stuff. Like the other situations are already better. So you can do McCarthy if you want. I think that Bo Nix will probably be my third option because I think he's the least talented of them. But quickly, Saquon. I think he's got 3 RB1 finishes this year overall. He had 5 his entire career with the Giants. Like that shows you how good Saquon's been. So, I mean, who else are you gonna pick? Henry. Like Saquon just looks great. So,
I'm trying to look up the stats. So I'm not stalling and doing a bad job, and now I can't find it. But I can't find the stats. But Jalen Hurts continues to score touchdowns on the ground. It doesn't matter for Saquon's value. He'll have a slight dip 1 week here and 1 week there. But overall, he's a stud. He's a top 5 running back production-wise, locked in to your fantasy lineups. And that's only because Jalen Hurts will steal some touchdowns. Otherwise, he's an absolute monster. He's jumping, he's hurdling guys backwards. I mean, he's ridiculous specimen, and he's just proving it week by week.
Yeah, again, it's really, really good. So yeah, I'm with you with that. Like we were a little bit worried. We're right on Taylor. Yeah. We missed on Saquon. Saquon's just been awesome. So it is what it is. All right, let's talk about him. Let's talk about Cedric Tillman, the Cleveland Browns. Tillman does it again. I'll give you some stats really quick to just kind of make my point for me. In week 7 through 9, Cedric Tillman is first in points at wide receiver, first in targets at wide receiver, second in air yards, 5th in receiving yards, and 3rd in touchdowns in that time span. With Cedric Tillman, where are you at with him? And moving forward, are you confidently starting him in your lineups?
I will not apologize for my Cedric Tillman fade. I will not. I will continue to fade him. I think he's got a bye next week, this upcoming week. So obviously you can't play him. So guess what? Big 0 in your lineups next week. But then after that, over the next month, I forget who the 4th team is, but it's Pittsburgh twice and Denver. And then there's a 4th team in there, which I think is not that bad. It might be like
Saints week 11, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so not bad. I just think Cedric Tillman is more matchup dependent than you expect him to be. Now, in this game, he was getting absolutely dominated by coverage for 54 minutes of the game. And in the end, he caught that touchdown. Obviously, if he's 675 and 1, if he doesn't catch that touchdown, it does not look great for Cedric Tillman. Doesn't matter. But like I said, he was had for most of this game. That said, there was a touchdown called back earlier in the game from him as well. So the volume looks like it's going to be there, even though they only scored 10 points, even though, they were facing a really good defense in the Chargers. Tillman still got there. So I'll give it up to him. He's a great player. I never had that issue. I just thought the value was out of control. I sold him and Mooney for 25 first last week. Not mad about it.
No, I think it's easier to get that first now. I think it's
yeah. I could have got a first plus probably if I waited a week. Yeah.
Right. It's all good. I think you made a good deal. But yeah, you're going to continue to see this level of usage, even in bad matchups. You still just play this guy because you see what he can do in bad matchups. Because the key for him is he gets the air yards, which the other guys don't get. Elijah Moore has basically like a negative ADOT. Like Elijah Moore's doing the Mickey Mouse stuff. Jerry Judy's complimentary. David Njoku's kind of underneath and stuff. Cedric Tillman's the one like deep threat, and it's continuing to work, man. Like it's just. At a certain point, I'm like, all right, I'm just going to play this guy. If it burns me, it burns me. But it really depends who you're playing him against. Like, I think he's in consideration top 20 wide receiver moving forward. Whoever you have on that lineup and you want to play, you want to treat him as a wide receiver one, I'm fine with that. I'm not there yet. But yeah, like, if he continues to do it, it's just like, all right, man, I just got to give up. Like, you're doing some good stuff. He looks like a very good, like, NFL, like, not wide receiver one, but a very good, like, NFL wide receiver moving forward. I'll say that.
Yeah. And look, Jameis has a deep ball sometimes. And Jameis throws the deep ball all the time. So, like, we know the interceptions are always going to be there with Jameis, but he keeps chucking it. They're going to let him keep chucking it because they don't have a choice. He's just going to do what he's going to do. And Cedric Tillman is going to be there, sometimes. And, he's going to come through.
Oh. All right, let's go to your team, the Patriots, losing in overtime to Tennessee Titans. Oh, boy, was that game open. I thought they were going to win that game. Let me tell you what. I was like, oh, goodness. Yeah, they fall 2-7. Tennessee's 2-6. And I guess kind of going according to plan with New England, what they wanted. Obviously, the offensive line is in shambles. Hey, what's up, Millie? Thanks for joining us. But Drake May is making magic happen. We saw that one play scramble for his life for like what felt like 40 seconds. Ended up throwing a ridiculous touchdown, right? Like you see stuff like that happen. Jacoby Brissett's not doing that. That's not what's going to happen. I guess for him moving forward, how high are you going to rank Drake May in Dynasty? Because I think it's an honest conversation to have him as a top 8 quarterback in Dynasty moving forward. Where are you kind of at with him moving in Dynasty?
Yeah, the first thing I want to mention here is on that play where Drake May was doing everything possible. There's an amazing tweet. Michael Jordan is his name. Michael Jordan is not his game. He's number 74. He's an offensive lineman for the Patriots because, like, I knew this, going into this week. There's so many injuries on the offensive line. They're shuffling guys. But Michael Jordan on this play, I think he's a guard. It literally blocks no one. And Drake May, he's like standing around like this. He turns around like this, and he's like kind of actively looking to block guys. But for the 20 seconds that May is scrambling around, he's blocking no one. And it's just like a microcosm of exactly what's happening with Drake May on a weekly basis. This offensive line is not doing him any favors. He's running around like a madman out there. He's had 8 rushes for 95 yards in this game, which is amazing. We love that for fantasy. Another 206 through the air. All right, so that's what makes him viable. Tennessee, not a great team. I get it. But Drake May has to run for his life because these guys don't know what the hell they're doing there. So, yeah, how high is too high to rank him in Dynasty? I can't get him into my top 12. I can get him into my top 15. I can get him into my top 14. I could put him right there as a high-end QB2 right now. But I've seen people asking, how much is too much to pay for Drake May right now? Should I pay 2 firsts? And I'm like, whoa. If you're giving me 2 firsts for Drake May right now in Dynasty, I'm giving you Drake May. At the same time, I kind of like Drake May.
Yeah. So I'll give you the list of the top 7 guys. I think after that, there's a conversation. So we have Josh Allen, CJ Stroud, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes. I'm not even going to count Mahomes because it's just a disaster right now. Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels. Those are the clear top 7, right? And then we get into this Caleb Williams, Jordan Love, Kyler Murray range. You have, Trevor Lawrence stuck in there, Anthony Richardson. I think you could make a case for him in there is why I put it there. Now, obviously, like Jordan Love's been the best with that group. So you talk about, I think there's just a case to be made where he should be inside the top 12. Because you kind of want to be early with these guys as opposed to being late, right? Because if you're late, then the price is going to massively jump. So we'll watch how the rest of the season goes. I don't know if he's going to be a high-end producer because of the situation, everything around him. But like, dude, 95 rushing yards, like, come on, that's ridiculous. Like, I mean, if you're getting anything close to that each week, like, that's just buddy. So yeah, I
agree with you. What's interesting is you mentioned CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud has only been a QB2 or QB1 twice this season. And he's done it, barely. Week 1 seems like an anomaly based on the amount of points that he scored and what he did. Week 2, he just put up a phenomenal amount of passing yards. Week 4 against Jacksonville. So Indy and Jacksonville is the only time he did it. Bobby Slowick is going to be gone, right? I don't think CJ Stroud lasts in that top 8, top 10. I know he's got youth. I know he's got Nico and Tank. But what the hell are they going to do? Like, they have to protect him. They're going to have to replace his offensive coordinator. I don't know what they do with CJ Stroud, but he's going to be falling from the ranks here pretty soon. And it might be an interesting question next year if Drake May develops the way we expect him to. CJ Stroud or Drake May?
Yeah. I will say, like, Caleb Williams, you probably still get a plus on top, like, moving off of Caleb Williams. I don't know how much longer that's going to go if Caleb Williams continues to struggle because he has not been good there, right? The one exception is they're going to change the coordinator. Like, it'll get better for him, so we'll see. But, like, I think it's an honest conversation talking about those guys because Drake May looks good, man. It's just what it is.
There's no way in hell I am trading Caleb Williams for Drake May. It's not. As a Patriots fan, Caleb Williams to the goddamn moon. I think he's a top 6 locked in guy. They just need. He's a rookie. Drake May's a rookie. Looks good. Although Drake May does look like he's taking the Josh Allen track of just absolutely running all over people. Oh, I can't, Jesse. I can't trust it as a Pats fan. I can't
He's a
trust it
wild
yet.
man. I know, and you have the whole
trust it.
Pats bias too, right? So there's that.
Mac Jones PTSD, baby. Mac Jones
I mean,
PTSD here.
I think Scott's right. Like you guys have found a quarterback. Now we'll see how
Yes,
good it goes,
100%,
but
100%.
like you got. That's what you're looking for. That's all about it.
Agree.
Yes, Tyson. I'm happily selling Lamb. Brian Arnold's big. Like in Dynasty, yeah, I want to buy Lamb. If I'm a contender though, with Lamb's value being a top 3 wide receiver, I'm happy to move off of him. So I think it works both ways. If you're a rebuilding team, you can get Lamb, go him. If you're a Dynasty contender, like we'll see what happens with this injury. I kind of want to be TBD on it before I sell him. But if he's out a long time, like that's just production you're missing, right? And he's a high-end producer on top of that too. So we'll see where his value goes to. But on rebuilds and like on contending teams, I think you could do this flip, right?
Yeah.
Where you move him for pieces, just because it kind of is what it is. Just unfortunate.
Yep.
Yeah. We talked about it earlier, Scott, with Dak being out weeks like this. I'm already saying they should wave the white flag, throw in the towel like in Rocky IV, was like throw the damn towel, like like get him out. So we'll see what happens. I don't know, man. It's just like we talked about Drake May, Bo Nix. Yeah, Bo Nix, those guys. Trevor Lawrence, I think he's fine with that question. Actually hit a really good one. So you can stream it. We talk about Danny Dimes. Danny Dimes has a fantastic month of football coming up. If you want to go Daniel Jones, you could do that as well. Let's go to Tennessee. Like Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard DMPs 3 times this last week, and then he balls out. Goes bonkers. 31 opportunities, 154 yards. 154 yards. Like Tony Pollard just looks great. Now, Ridley did not have the massive blow-up week, but he still got, 5 receptions, 73 yards. He was good. It's a lot more boom bust with Calvin Ridley than it is Tony Pollard. So, obviously, I prefer Tony Pollard to Calvin Ridley. But to your point, I think you can buy both of these guys. Where are you at with them moving forward? Are you confidently starting Tony Pollard as RB1? See like a mid-range RB2? And then Calvin Ridley, where are you kind of at with him?
Yeah, you got to buy both of these guys as a contender now, especially off kind of the down week. You can wait a week on Pollard. I don't think he's going to do too well against the Chargers, Minnesota, then Houston, Washington, Jacksonville, Cincy, Indy, Jacksonville to end the fantasy playoff schedule is money. We've been talking about this for weeks. You have to buy these Titans. Like I said, you can maybe wait a week on Pollard. You do not want to risk waiting a week on Ridley because he's all that's there. I think the target share, JJ Zacharyson had his weekly data dump, and I think he said something like 38% was the target share for Calvin Ridley. Yeah. It's just nuts what's happening here. You want to buy these guys. Tony Pollard, 28 carries and 3 receptions for Tony Pollard. Go wait a week. They'll have a down week. Go get Tony Pollard and get him for the stretch run.
Yeah, like they are the focal points of that. And this is the thing with bad offenses. If there's no competition for guys, Tajay Spears continues to deal with injury. I don't know what's going on. Tajay Spears is not going well. There's no competition for Tony Pollard. It's not. I like Julius Chestnut, but like let's be real, it's not. That's not competition for him. So that was a thesis of that play. Yeah, and Calvin Ridley, man, he's just a good NFL wide receiver. Like, this is what it is. It's gonna be boom bust, but similar to Cortland Sutton in Denver, like this roller coaster you're gonna ride. You just kind of live with it and go from it because it is what it is. And yeah, Tyson, sorry I didn't really answer your question before, but yeah, I'm fine making that move. If I'm a contending team and I'm not really like with Pickens, who's boom bust, Brian Robinson is good at the high end. So you need to know your team, but like you have pieces, you have CMC, so you'd be basically tacking on CMC and Lamb for the playoffs. Like, I mean, you know what I'm saying? So yeah,
solid bench as well.
Yeah, you got enough pieces. Like I'm fine doing that type of deal in that situation. Let us go to our next game where the freaking Chicago Bears just got eviscerated by the Arizona Cardinals. I don't know what the heck's going on. 29
What is life?
They got destroyed. Like, Kyler Murray wasn't even good in this game. Like, he didn't really have to do anything. The offense, like James Conner was a bulldozer. DeMarcado had a big rushing touchdown. The Bears' run defense was bad in this game. Overall, man, it just seems like it is falling apart there. But the big question in Chicago, what are we doing with DJ Moore? Because he has had one performance inside the top 20 wide receivers. Outside of that, it has been really, really bad. Wide receiver 40, wide receiver 30, wide receiver 24, wide receiver 41. There's the wide receiver 6, wide receiver 58, wide receiver 71, wide receiver 46. What are we doing with DJ Moore here, man?
You can't sell him. You can't. No, who's buying DJ Moore right now? Unless you're rebuilding and you think, I think he's 27. Is he 28, DJ Moore? He's
26, 27.
He's
20. In that range.
I think he's 27. But yeah, look, DJ Moore, it's not old, but he's certainly not no spring chicken, right? And Rome Odunze is there. Keenan Allen will go, but who's to say that they're not going to bring in another pass catcher? Darnell Mooney would look good, real good in this offense. But Look, and you got Cole Kmet there. We know this. We said it earlier. We know that rookie quarterbacks cannot support more than one option. This week it was Rome Odunze. It could be Rome Odunze a lot of weeks going forward here. Keenan Allen had a ball straight up bounce off his chest this week. I don't know what's going on with Keenan in this one, but I don't know. Yeah, it's just so bad. So Caleb Williams, I don't know. This offense sucks. The schedule is terrible moving forward. Do you have the schedule in front of you, Jesse? Because I'm struggling. As you pull up the schedule, only four catches for him. 5, 4, and 4 for Rome, Keenan, and DJ Moore in terms of receptions. Rome got it done because he saw them further down the field.
Yeah, that's just kind of is how it is. It's interesting. Rome Odunze is at 15 yards reception. Keenan Allen's at 10. And Keenan Allen is outside the top 130 in yards per target and yak. And when you're doing that, you can't do shit as a wide receiver because it's awful. It's like Wan'Dale Moore, but just worse. It's just not good. I don't know. They're treating him like he's a quick, fast guy. That's not Keenan Allen. He's a big, slow, like power slot. So I don't know. But I'll pull up the schedule here real quick. It is they have New England next year, your Patriots, and then they play the Packers. They play the Vikings. They play the Lions. They play the 49ers. Then they're back to the Vikings, back to the Lions. They get a reprieve with my Seahawks, who will probably be broken at that point. And then they get the Packers again to round the schedule.
Yeah.
Good luck making the playoffs with the schedule. They're 4-4. They can. It's just like they have to be a lot better, man. And it's the offense. It's the offense.
And not only are those good defense, those are in division matchups. Yep. All of them. They haven't played an in division matchup yet. And they're going to get eviscerated. Like the Cardinals are doing this to them. What are the Packers, who are probably the lesser of those three defenses that they have to worry about? What are the Packers going to do to this Bears offense that they've seen time and time again? They're going to absolutely get crushed in all 6 of those games on the offensive side of the ball. Could they win one of those matchups? Maybe. Will they? Probably.
Maybe. I mean, imagine when they go up against the Lions, they get absolutely bullied to death. Like it's just,
oh my God.
Good luck. The Lions are
it's also
beauty, man.
You would also kind of hope for garbage time in those situations. That's not going to exist here. Caleb Williams he's just going to need more time. I like Caleb Williams. I think he's going to be progress into a great NFL quarterback. He's got the rushing on his side as well. The offensive line isn't doing him any favors, and he's just going to need more time.
Dude, yeah, he had 5.2 yards per pass attempt this year. That is atrocious. Like that. Yeah. That's like running back numbers. Like that's not good. Like it's clearly broken the offense right now. We were hoping it was going to get right. I mean, you hope so. Swift's getting the usage, and I'm willing to trust the usage because he still got double-digit points for you. He still had 14 plus fantasy points in the game, right? Like the usage is fine. So it's maybe he's not like a high-end RB1, but he could be a middling RB2 for you, and I think that's fine for Swift. I think that's kind of where he should have been anyways.
Sell him now. Sell him if anyone is buying. I do because Detroit, no. Twice against Detroit. San Francisco, you can get by on San Francisco, but no thanks. I just think this offense is just not going to be good. And the bigger issue that we have that we've talked about all offseason long, Jesse, is Shane Fraudrin at offensive coordinator. I mean, this is the guy. Luke Getsy, fine. Bring in Luke Getsy again, please. Like, just get him back. Like, this is the problem here. I mean, the Bears have had a string of really terrible OCs. They need to get somebody in here to help develop this guy and really make it work. I think they will. Do I trust them to do it? Not necessarily, but I think they have to. Just get some sort of offensive mind. But yeah, Shane Waldron is not it, in case you didn't know.
Yeah, Shane Waldron's like a painter without a canvas. Like, it's just like he's trying to do too much. He does these weird like triangle formations and stuff, and it's like, dude, stop overcomplicating things. Do the good stuff. And he's like, just watch what he did with like Rome Odunze, like his routes run and stuff. It's been really bad. It's gotten better, but like the routes they're having them run, it's just bad. It's just he's not gonna last in Chicago. We will say that. No. I don't think he's getting a job again. Like the last 2 places have been really bad. So good luck, Shane Waldron. He's going back to college. We will see that man in college somewhere after this.
He'll be the Raiders OC the next offseason. Good Lord.
Somehow worse. All right. On the flip side, another disappointing wide receiver, Marvin Harrison Jr. just did not come home for you. And like we thought it was going to be a bad matchup. Marvin Harrison Jr., 2 receptions, 34 yards, and a fumble. 3 fantasy points. Is it time to panic on him for the rest of the season? Are you worried about Marvin Harrison Jr.?
Maybe. Yeah, look, they didn't need to do it. The crazy thing about the usage in this game of the Arizona offense was the running backs. James Conner, 18 carries. DeMarcado, 4 carries. Trey Benson got in for 8 carries. DJ Dallas had a carry in this game. Trey McBride ran it in, from 2 yards out. It was just wild, but it's because they didn't need to do anything in the passing game. Kyler Murray absolutely buried me in Scott Fishbowl this week because he didn't do anything because he didn't have to. It's just an anomaly. I think going forward, there's going to be certainly, of course, my schedule is not working again. I have to see the Cardinals schedule to see if it's actually going to happen for Marvin Harrison Jr. You'll have some spike weeks, but no, this is shaping up to be a best ball season for Marv. Going forward, I'm fine with him. I like him this season. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm buying Marvin Harrison Jr. the dip on him in Dynasty more than the redraft.
Oh yeah, 100%.
If there's a dip on his dynasty value, I think like people are going to get frustrated because he's just not producing. But I'll tell you the schedule. He's got the Jets, then a bye, Seahawks, Vikings, Seahawks, which Seahawks have been very up or down. You can have the Seahawks if they can do it right.
Yeah.
Your Patriots, Carolina Panthers, Los Angeles Rams, San Francisco 49ers. There are a lot of good matchups for them in this upcoming schedule. It's just if they can live up to that. We've been talking about like these schedules and they look great on paper and they're not living up to it. We will see, but yeah, they just ground and pound the Bears to death last week. They didn't need to do anything. It's just kind of like 20 pass attempts.
Couple of quick bits of news. CMC will practice today. Let's go full practice for CMC. We are expecting him to play next week. Who knows what that's going to look like? Let's just hope there's no setbacks. Greg Dulcich may be traded. The Broncos are opening to trade free Greg Dulcich, please. I'm holding so many bags of Greg Dulcich. And then Dave Canales has not made a decision on who will start next week against the Giants. I guess it's because Andy Dalton will be healed from his thumb injury from the difficult car accident that he dealt with. I mean, listen, that's nothing to joke about, but was his thumb really that injured, or did they just want to see Bryce Young again with an excuse?
Like, just play Bryce. He looked fine last week. I don't what's Andy Dalton going to do for you?
He won. He won the game.
That's what I'm saying. Like, why would you bet? You benched. You already proved your point. What's the point of going back to Dalton? Like, what does it do for you? Like, people are going to enjoy the games when they lose a game. It's like, no, just play Bryce Young. If it doesn't work out, whatever. And like, I can't talk right now. The Broncos should have probably featured Dulcich if they're trying to trade him, because you putting him as an active, like healthy scratch does not look good for trade value. So what are you going to get? A 7th round pick? It's like, okay, here's Dulcich. They're like, all right, cool. We'll take him, I guess.
Send him anywhere. Send him anywhere.
Let's go to the Jacksonville Jaguars against Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles 28, Jacksonville 23. Jacksonville kept this game a lot closer than it should have been. The Eagles kind of did that thing where they kind of go up, they go down. They let teams hang around. They did enough to win this game. Saquon Barkley did the craziest backwards jump over a dude you'll ever see in this game. He looked incredible. Jacksonville, the running back situation, we did not want to play anyone because this is exactly what we thought happening. Like, Tank Bigsby, they're going to be behind in this game. They were. Bigsby, 8 carries. ETN had 5 touches. Dearness Johnson had 2 touches. It was bad. The issue was Brian Thomas Jr. didn't get home for you. Evan Ingram got the opportunity. He wasn't great. He had 5 catches for 45 yards, 2-point conversion. It was fine. But overall, you kind of know the Jags offense and how just up and down it is. And I will say for you, can we trust any Jag consistently in our lineups week in and week out moving forward?
No. I mean, we love Brian Thomas Jr. So, look, we've been talking about how the Eagles have been much better against the pass this season. They're not good, but they're much better. Cooper DeJean helps a good deal. Trevor Lawrence, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions in this game. He threw it up in the back corner of the end zone to Dearness Johnson. Like, you're surprised that ball got picked. Like, what the hell are you doing, Trevor Lawrence? It was just ugly, ugly, ugly all around. I don't know how they kept up in this game. Trevor Lawrence ran 2 scores in, but otherwise 23 points. I guess Cam Little's doing a little bit with the leg. Yeah, it's ugly. We've talked about the fact that Tank Bigsby, you're never going to be able to trust him because the Jags are going to be down all the time. We saw that come to fruition. It's a 3-headed monster where all of the heads are that meme where they're the goofy head, every single one of them. Yeah. So you just don't want any of this monster here. Trevor Lawrence, no. ETN Bigsby, no. Evan Ingram is the guy that I want, but you see what happens sometimes to Ingram as well, even though he's a featured piece.
Yeah, I'll say, like, you're going to start Ingram, you're going to start Brian Thomas Jr. It's just like, it's a little bit lower than we want it to be just because of the uncertainty of that offense. But yeah, they're going to be passing a lot, give them opportunities. We'll see. I'm in Philadelphia. Is Jalen Hurts QB1? Because, my God, the schedule is lining up for him, and he's balling out with touchdowns on such. Yep. If he's not QB1, where do you have him?
QB2.
Yeah.
He's QB1. He's
Yeah.
QB1. The only person who can take this away from him is the perennial QB1, Josh Allen. He's still getting home with very little less to work with than he's ever had. Saquon can, just like Hurts can cap Saquon can cap Hurts if Saquon kind of breaks a few longer runs, but Hurts is still getting there on the ground. He ran in another score in this one. Devonta Smith is awesome. Can we just give Devonta Smith his props? No one is saying anything about Devonta Smith these days. But back in the day when he was too skinny to be in the NFL and all this stuff, it doesn't matter. What's nice to see is that he is, only 4 receptions, but he's basically a de facto alpha once AJ Brown goes out. He's able to win. He's able to catch the deep ball, a sick catch in the back of the end zone in this one for a touchdown. And he helps your offense function even with no Dallas Goedert, even with no AJ Brown for half of this game. Devonta Smith still helped this offense function to the point where they can win this game against Jacksonville comfortably, even though Jacksonville somehow had a comeback attempt here.
Yeah, I think really the only guy keeping Hurts outside QB1 is Lamar, and Lamar probably holds it because he's got about 3 points per game on him. Yep. We'll see. I think it's going to get really close because Hurts he's got 8 rushing touchdowns already. If he's going to be on pace for another 15 rushing touchdowns in the season,
ridiculous.
It's absurd. And then Saquon's getting touchdowns. Those 2 guys will top 5, which is crazy. You have top 5 running back, top 5 quarterback. AJ Brown, you could have another, we talked about this with Atlanta. AJ Brown could have a top 5 wide receiver. You could do a lot of stuff with this team and just look really good. So overall, yeah, it's nice to be an Eagles fan. That offense looks like it's a juggernaut. Yeah, just fantastic stuff. Let's go to the Lions whooping on the Packers in this game. The Lions really just put it on the Packers, and they just showed them hey, we're the big dogs in town. Sorry, guys. They're 7-1. Packers are 6-3. Packers have a little bit of issues. Jordan Love was not good in this game. He completed a decent amount of passes, but overall, he just missed some opportunities. Goff was fantastic. 18 for 22, touchdown. He did his thing. Overall, they just won this game. I think the bigger question revolves around Sam Laporta. We did not have James Williams. James Williams is coming back. Sam Laporta had 3 targets in this game. They did not really need Sam Laporta. What are we doing with Sam Laporta? Because it is so hard to trust him in this offense. Even though one of the best offenses in the NFL, it's just so hard to trust him moving forward.
They never need Sam Laporta. That's the problem, right? Is who are you going to throw it to? You're going to throw it to Amon-Ra, who's wide open every single play. You're going to throw it to Sam Laporta. Who are you going to throw it to? You're going to throw it to Jahmyr Gibbs, who's streaking down the sideline pass running, linebackers, or you're going to throw it to Sam Laporta. Who are you going to throw it to? Jamison Williams, who is due back next week off of his suspension, who is wide open on every play deep down the field, or Sam Laporta? We have our answer here. Sam Laporta is a great NFL tight end. He's just no longer a good fantasy tight end. He hasn't been all season. We've seen glimmers of hope. We know what he can be. He's just not that anymore. This team doesn't need him to be that. This team is 7-1 with Sam Laporta doing next to nothing in terms of production on a fantasy level. So they don't need him. Can he, at some point, give you a big game? Sure. When's that going to be? I don't know.
You can't trust him. That's the thing. This was the 2-week window. I thought he was going to give us production. Yep. He gave it to us one time. Did not do it this week. We'll see, man. Reminds me of Kittle a couple of years ago where it was super boom bust that off. It's just a worse version because he's not as good as Kittle. Kittle's a fantastic talent. Kelsey was having this issue earlier in the season. They just didn't trust him. They weren't featuring him. So we'll see. Kelsey got the bunch of injuries to go his way. Laporta's just dealing with all of these guys. So yeah, it just sucks for Laporta because he was a tight end 1, man. And I was like, that seems like a steep price to pay. I don't want to pay that price. Yeah. And I just didn't know why we were so high on him. I thought top 6, sure, but top 1, no. Yeah. So Jordan Love got hurt in this game. Are you worried about him, and how much does it hurt this offense in general?
Yeah, he played. This was a divisional game. They knew they needed him to even compete with the likes of Detroit. They did compete with Detroit. The problem was it was 24-3 for most of this game, or 24 to whatever it was. It was crappy. But yeah, Jordan Love just was not the same running around there with the groin injury. He gutted it out on a few plays, but it clearly affected him. The rain also affected him. And when you mix those conditions with his injury, you can see why he did what he did in terms of a lack of production. It's going to be hard for him. They have a bye, thankfully, right? But then Chicago out of that bye, that's a great secondary. Got San Francisco, still a decent defense, even though you can get on them. Miami has played better of late. Detroit. So the next month after the bye is still tough, and Jordan Love is still going to be rehabbing that injury. Now, against Chicago, they could roll out Malik Willis keep Jordan Love around if they need him, give him an extra week of rest. And this team is 6-3, but Chicago in those divisional matchups, you never know exactly what that's going to look like. And the defense could show up to play at Chicago. So it's tough. You just hope that he can make it through, but he's going to have to gut out a lot of performances here. And he wasn't playing at an elite level earlier in the season either. Beyond, he had some good touchdown games, but he was hurt as well. So it's just really tough going forward for Jordan Love. And I have a lot of Jordan Love bags, so I'm concerned.
Yeah, we'll see, because he got injured the week before, so he didn't get injured in this game. He's dealing with that groin injury, right? And it seemed like it limited him a little bit. So to your point, it's gonna be interesting. They're good enough to get into the playoffs even with injured Love. I mean, they've won all the games Malik Willis has played, so they could go back to Malik Willis and run that offense against some of these lesser opponents. We'll see if it works out. Obviously, they don't want to, because Jordan Love's clearly a better quarterback. The thing about Jordan Love is he's like Brett Favre reincarnated as a quarterback. He trusts his arm so much to the point, I'm like, dude, you don't have to rip that throw in there. He's like, I got a 2-inch window. I'm throwing it. And it's like,
they love those guys. They love those guys in Green Bay.
They do. I mean, it's just wild. So Aaron Rodgers is the exact opposite of those guys, right? He's like, I'm not turning the ball over. Jordan Love's like, I have a howitzer. Check this out. Let's go in there. So we'll see. I don't know. The Packers will be an interesting team to see how the rest of the season plays out with the quarterback injury, because it's the biggest position they have. And I think they're going to be fine. I'm just curious. The Lions seem like the top dog in basically the NFC right now. So Question, 10.5 points. They are down at PPR. Are you flexing Rachaad White or DeAndre Hopkins? You know where I'm going.
I think you're going Rachaad White.
You are correct, sir. That is where I'm going.
I think you're right. I think D-Hop, I still need to see it from him. Look, we've talked about this all show. We've heard about it all season long. These defenses know what is up in terms of the passing game. Good NFL teams are running the football at an insane clip, especially when they have options. Kareem Hunt, how many times did he run the ball last week, Jesse? Was it 30?
Damn many.
Hang on. I got it. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's at 27, 22, 21 rush steps last 3 weeks. It's absurd, man.
And this is why Patrick Mahomes has been a liability for your fantasy teams. It's because they've decided that the short passing game, a la Tom Brady and what he was doing in his prime when the Patriots were winning all these Super Bowls, and the running game is really what they're built around. Pacheco's coming back. They're banking on that for the playoffs. I 100% guarantee you that. Whether that happens in the fantasy for the fantasy playoffs with Pacheco, I don't know. But what I will tell you is that DeAndre Hopkins and how he fits and integrates into this offense, who knows? Travis Kelce is there. We expect D-Hop to operate in the short to intermediate area of the field. He's not a deep threat, but can threaten the deep area of the field. But you still have Xavier Worthy to do that. You still have James Watson, Justin Watson, who's out there running routes. So, look, I'm going to put my faith in Rachaad White. I think he gets there on volume, especially in half PPR, gets there on volume and has the better opportunity to score a touchdown. That's a tough one, though.
Yeah, it's a juicy matchup for Hopkins. So, this should be the theoretical matchup that's going to happen.
Should be.
He's going to be in the intermediate area, the 10 to 20, actually probably closer to 10 to 15 yard range. That's where he's going to thrive in this game. It's just if he gets all the targets, because I don't think he's fully learned the offense yet. He's still coming on. It's just going to take him a little bit of time. But yeah, you can make the case for either one of these guys. So if you want to lean one way or the other, I get it. But if you're asking me, I prefer Rachaad White. I know his passing down role is there. That is why I'm more confident in that. If he was losing more snaps to Bucky in the past game, I'd have a lot bigger questions, because they're not going to be able to run against them in this game. That's going to be the struggle offensively. So they're going to need him out of the passing game. We saw it last week, how they targeted the running backs. They're probably going to do it again against that.
Agree. And I would say this is kind of, it might be a little similar to Baltimore in terms of the front seven in Kansas City. The front seven for Kansas City is better than Baltimore. But against Baltimore, Rachaad White only ran it 10 times for 40 yards and got nothing on the ground. 6 for 6 through the air for 71 and 2 touchdowns, right? So this is where Tampa Bay is going to be able to take advantage. We saw Bucky get 7 targets last week. He's the threat to kind of split that work in the passing game with Rachaad White. But who else do they have outside of Cade Otton? They got Raheem Jarrett. They got other guys I've never heard of. Jalen McMillan with a sore hamstring. Is he going to play? Who knows? They got Trey Palmer. Fine. But I think they really lean on these two backs in this game, and they try to keep it close.
Yeah, it's interesting because they only get out 30 receiving yards running backs. Now, some of that is like matchup dependent stuff, so you have to kind of take it with a grain of salt. But like it's not the best matchup for these running backs, I will say. But if you want to like go through the Chiefs schedule, you can kind of see because they've been really good against running backs, so it might not seem like the best thing in the world, but this is just like their strength of the Buccaneers offense, and that's what they have to lean on, right? Because they've had games like against the Ravens had 6 receptions, the Raiders had 6 receptions, the Saints had 6 receptions. So it's there. And in particular, teams don't have a lot of options because we're talking about McMillan, we're talking about Sterling Shepard. I like McMillan. And outside of Otten, it's a lot of question marks. So, yeah, I think that's where I can lean on it.
DeAndre Hopkins has only had one game this season where he has been a top 16 wide receiver, and I'm using that number because he was wide receiver 16. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, wide receiver 95, 99, 68, 43, 102, 75. I know that a majority of that was with Will Levis and whatever the hell was going on in Tennessee. I get that. I get he finds himself in a much, much better situation. All of that said, I need to see it. I need to see if DeAndre Hopkins still has enough to be able to consistently win, even in a great matchup. He needs to consistently win and then consistently be fed the ball. Does he have that rapport with Patrick Mahomes? I don't know. You know what I do know is that Rachaad White is a threat in the passing game.
100%. Like that's what's up in there. Like those were some broken plays for Quentin Johnston. Like that's kind of is what it is. So like if you have these just where defenses break down, sometimes wide receiver benefits. Johnston had a lot of big plays, but like he's still not a high end targeter. Like we know Lab McConkey's the guy in that offense, and he's just a better overall wide receiver. I think Johnston can get these broken plays, just kind of how he is, but like it's really hard to count on that. So that one play he was streaking down the sideline, nobody was even near him. It was just a wide open pass. Then sometimes that happens, right? It's just is what it is. I mean, he was just historically bad as a rookie. Like everything told us how bad he was because the usage was not there. It seems like they've kind of figured out a way to use him this year, which makes a lot more sense for him in the Chargers. But yeah, it's still kind of like we need to see a little bit more before we fully trust Quentin Johnston.
I traded QJ for Cortland Sutton last week before the game. No regrets. No regrets.
Yeah, right. Of course, like Quentin Johnston goes off, but that's just how fancy is.
Right? They both go off. So
yeah, exactly right.
Throw a touchdown. Throw a touchdown, Cortland Sutton. Go off. Let's go.
All right, let's talk about the Rams beating my Seahawks, and my goodness, that was a backbreaking interception from Geno late in that game. I was like, I didn't even know what he saw, but dude, he's been under duress all game. Like, I'm not gonna hold it against Geno. He was doing everything to keep his team alive.
8 sacks.
60% pressure, 8 sacks. My God. Him and Stafford were balling out. Stafford looked great. Geno looked great in this game.
Geno looked great.
The rushing attacks were not as good. They were fine, but nobody was really balling out. Walker was okay. Kyron Williams was inefficient, but still got a ton of usage. The wide receivers, good God, DeMarcus Robinson, Jaxon Smith-Njigba. I have best ball teams with Marcus Robinson. I was like, hell yeah, this is glorious. But outside of that, I think my question is for the Seahawks offense. Can we expect more of this usage from JSN when Metcalf comes back? Or do you think he's kind of going to revert to that low ADOT, like pop gun bullshit that they've been running him the entire season?
You can't put the genie back in the bottle. You can't put the genie back in the bottle, Ryan Grubb. Don't you dare put the genie back in the bottle. If I knew how to change my hashtag, it would already be changed to JSN is HIM. No, look, DK is the number one, but this always should have been a 1A, 1B situation, and it hasn't been that. I don't know how. Look, Geno Smith, you just said it. You said it yourself, 60% pressure rate, right? It's been abysmal. This is the worst pass blocking offense in the league. I don't know what the numbers say, but with my eyeballs, this is the worst pass blocking offensive line in the entire league. Geno Smith has no time. He's getting crushed on 25% of these plays. I don't know how the guy keeps getting up, let alone go 363 and 3 on 21 completions. Geno Smith is either the best quarterback in the history of the league, or I don't know. He's a wizard. He's a literal wizard out there. I don't know what he's doing, but yeah, he looked great. JSN is getting home, and the Rams aren't a phenomenal defense. They're certainly not a phenomenal pass defense in the secondary. That's for sure. And can JSN continue wide receiver 2 level production? Yes. Can JSN be the overall wide receiver 1 ever again this season? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
He might be.
It's the life of JSN. This was his first game this year with his yards per target were over 10. It's been really low. He had a game that was 1.5 yards per target. Like that's just how bad it's been. What I'm worried about is the offensive line. And because they're so scared of the offensive line, that's what they're designing for JSN, right? And because they didn't have Metcalf, they need someone else to fill that role in this game. And that's where they use JSN to do a lot of these in-breaking deep shots. And it worked out really well. Now,
Yep.
I hope Grubb trusts the offensive line to do it enough. I'm scared he does not, and that's my biggest concern. So, you know what? And John Snyder had a post early in the offseason where he's like, guards are overdrafted and overpaid. And I'm looking at this offensive line like, shut the fuck up. Like, what are you talking about? Pay them their money.
So but bad. Yeah, no, this is an elite tweet right here, and he references it, but I just looked, Scott, you got us because he's on bye. Yeah, so he's absolutely going to get you a 0. San Francisco, who you can get over on this year, very young in that secondary. Arizona, the Jets with Sauce, who should be on DK by week 13. Arizona, I mean, it's not a difficult schedule here. And what Ryan Grubb needs to do is open up this offense because, look, I know this team is struggling at 4-5. There's still an outside chance that they make the playoffs. They have a chance. They're going to be battling all season long, and the schedule is good enough where they can do it. In fact, they face these 4-4 Rams again, week 18, and it could be a battle for that final playoff spot. So what you need to do, Ryan Grubb, is figure out how to utilize JSN, get K. Walker rolling again. You have all the pieces there except for that offensive line, but do something.
Right, and the defense is not there yet also. So, like, all these teams are flawed. They all have issues. I think the 49ers are the best team, but they still are dealing with issues. I figured out. I mean, they're one game up in the division. Like, it's really close to these teams. For the Rams, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua gets into a fight early in this game, throws a haymaker at a guy, gets ejected. Puka was clearly bothered by whatever Tariq Woolen said. They were having some issues in fighting. And then, by the way, Tariq Woolen gave up the game later on. So bravo, Tariq, for that terrible read on you where he just got burnt deep by Demarcus Robinson. But is it Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua? Who do you think is the Rams wide receiver 1 moving forward? Or a better question, do you think it even matters?
Both. No, doesn't matter. Matthew Stafford is elite. He's dealing. It's going to be both of these guys. You fire them up as your wide receiver 1. If you have both of them on the same team, I don't care. You fire them up weekly. These are the guys that you want in your lineup. You know who else you want in your lineup with these two guys balling out? It's DeMarcus Robinson. Punching Nacua, Puka Nacua. I don't care.
I like it.
Punch the ticket on DeMarcus Robinson with these two other elite guys. You know why? Because he gets one-on-one coverage. He gets left wide open and alone. The last 2 weeks with these guys in the lineups, he's been your half PPR, wide receiver 10, wide receiver 4 touchdowns in that span, 128 yards or 29 yards for DeMarcus Robinson. He's wide open, and he's good enough to take advantage of that. If these guys are out, he sucks. He can't get open against double coverage. But, you know, he doesn't need to anymore.
He's a good wide receiver 3 on team. He's a terrible wide receiver 1 on team. Like, it's because of how it shifts the coverage, right? And where teams are focusing on him, he cannot win. But if he's a third wide receiver and he's not in a piece you're focused on, he can get open. So that's why those 2 wide receivers open it up for him and make it so much easier where he can do these big plays. And like, even though Puka Nacua was out late in the game, like, they still found a way to use DeMarcus Robinson. They really featured him. So, it worked out. Like, it's just that Stafford's awesome. The Rams offense is so much fun to watch.
Stafford is awesome.
Yeah, like it's both these teams' defenses struggle. Like, both their offense lines are atrocious in very similar situations. Stafford just didn't make the big turnovers that Geno made. That's just how it goes sometimes.
And I will say that this is kind of what we were worried about with Kyren. Like, he hasn't shown it until this game. But if he's shut down at all and kept out of the end zone, he's a volume monster, right? We're not going to fade him at all. But at the same time, it's always a concern with Kyren. If he doesn't get into 22 carries, he didn't get in the end zone in this game. So, I mean, I don't know how you do that against Seattle. I mean, that's some wizardry in and of itself. But yeah, Kyren, just a down game. You keep riding him, but it's a concern.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever going to be the RB1 because he's like never been that efficient, right? Like, it's just he's top 5, but he's more back end than he is like to the RB1. It's just a little bit tougher for him because he's 3.7 yards a carry this year. Like, that's tough. Even his yards per target is like 4.6. Like, it's not great. Like, it's very much a definition of volume monster, and he's fine. Like, I like him, but yeah, I'm with you. It's just a little tough for him.
Scott knows what's up. Stafford or Love with the injury going forward? I hate this question because it's good.
Well, yeah, and like I think Stafford's extremely matchup dependent because if it's like they're shutting down, he can't get any like rushing yards at all. So even in this game, he still did not give you 20 fantasy points. So Stafford was really good, but like as far as fantasy production, he's freaking quarterback 24 on the year. Like, this is difficult for him. Now, I think he's top 15 option moving forward as long as he has both those wide receivers. I think he's good. But like, it's just he's not going to be a high end producer. So like in the right matchup, if it's like even matchup, we'll take Love. But with the injury, you can go Stafford. It's matchup dependent. I think is the best way to look at it because they have
It's Matt Stafford.
Miami, New England, Philadelphia, New Orleans the next month. Like it's kind of up and down. Like Miami, you can play him. New England should be able to play him. Philly, New Orleans, we'll see. It's just
if everyone's healthy, you play him every week. Matt Stafford is the one
I think you can
going
stream
forward. Yeah, and you can absolutely Stafford over Love next week.
Yeah,
same. That's the JSN corollary we call it because Love is on bye. But that's but that's what you really you really have to hang your hat on. Neither of these guys is running the ball all around the field. Love less so with the groin injury. We saw him limited. It was a rainy game. I get it, but I want Stafford with all those weapons. I'll go with Stafford over Love going forward, and I hate it.
Hey man,
thanks Scott. Appreciate
Stafford's fun to root for. All right, let's cover this last game because
let's get out.
We're cooking the books on this one. Indy loses 13-21, and that offense looked like Anthony Richardson was the quarterback yesterday because, oh my goodness, they could not do anything with Flacco against the Vikings. This is what we talked about with Minnesota and their defense, what they specialize in. They're really good at short and underneath coverages, and this is what Flacco has been his entire career. You want him to push down the field, but like how you beat the Vikings is you go over the top. Going to Flacco is really the opposite from Richardson, so it seemed like this was the worst game to actually do that. But like, the question is Anthony Richardson really the problem in Indy? And it's like, I mean, I think there's a lot of problems in there. But going forward, where do you think happens between him and Flacco? Do you think they keep starting Flacco even though he's really bad? Or do they go back to Richardson? How do you think this quarterback situation plays out?
The Colts should not have won this game. So I might be willing to throw it away. That said, Flacco looked horrible. This offense didn't look like they could do anything. Jonathan Taylor broke off a few good runs, but overall he was stuffed on most of them. It was just ugly up and down. Adonai Mitchell, he ran 5 routes and had one of the greatest catches of the season. In this one, it was so good, and he ran 5 routes. You know who ran more routes than Adonai Mitchell? Ashton Doolin. Yeah. What are we doing here? Just get the rookie on the field. If you're going to lose this bad and look this bad, just put the rookie on the damn field. Josh Downs, another 9 targets in this game. It didn't equate to much, 6 for 60, but I don't know. Look, Flacco, 16 for 27. That sounds a lot like what A-Rich has been doing. I mean, it's better still than what A-Rich was doing. But, at least get A-Rich's rushing out there. Maybe you have a chance. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just a rough game in general for the Colts. They clearly could not handle what the Vikings were doing. Leslie Frazier, it's interesting because Flacco is he's been in the league forever, so you think he'd be able to recognize some of these coverages and stuff. But I think it's just more shows the limitations of Flacco as a quarterback. Like we like him and Jameis, but they have issues, and when defenses do the right things against them, it can be problematic for both of those guys, right? For the Vikings, what are we doing with TJ Hawkinson right now? Because it's starting to come along for TJ Hawkinson. He ran a decent amount of routes last week. It wasn't full, but I think by next week he'll be running his full routes, all that fun stuff. Where are you going to rank him moving forward? Because I'm pretty bullish about TJ Hawkinson moving forward. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely top 12. Is he top 8? I think that's really the question. We have Justin Jefferson. We know he can put it together. But Josh Oliver, 5 for 58 and 1. That's not going to be the norm. But Addison had another 5 targets here. TJ Hawkinson just 3 for 27. It's really hard. It shouldn't be this hard. But is he top 8 for you?
Yeah, I'm gonna put him in top 8. He had 63 route. He ran 63% of routes. He's usually well above 80%. So I think in this next week he's gonna be above 80. And I like Addison, but he's not a guy that's a high-end targeter. It's Justin Jefferson, and Addison's kind of that complementary piece. When Hawkinson and Addison were playing last year alongside Jefferson, Hawkinson was the better player. He was doing more. The injury really hurt him, but I think they're going to kind of go back to how they were using Hawkinson, where he's going to thrive in the middle of the field. Jefferson actually pushes deeper in the field again, so he's going to go down further more. And Hawkinson lives underneath. I'm fine keeping him as top 8 option because once we get outside the top 6, it's kind of all right, there's question marks with all those guys. I'm not going to have Laporta over him. I'm not going to do Kraft over him, right? So you really run out of guys to kind of rank, right? So I've been bullish on Hawkinson. I think he's a good tight end. I mean, we'll see. It could be risky because Oliver had 5 receptions for 58 in this game and a touchdown. Ideally, that all consolidates into one tight end. It's a monster performance, right? Because you're over 20 points in those things. So we'll see. It might take him a couple of weeks to get ramped up, but I'm not too worried about Hawkinson. I'm just going to fire him up if I have him.
The real question is how high is too high to rank him next week against Jacksonville? Is he your tight end one? Is he the tight end one?
Maybe not tight end one, but top 5 for sure. There's points to be had in that game. So yeah, they might like. I am worried they maybe limit him a little bit still. Like they're like, maybe we get him up to 70 or 75% instead of 85%. So it just takes the ceiling off a little bit. But yeah, man, like if you have Hawkinson, just fire him up. Like it's just you waited this long. Similar to McCaffrey. If we have McCaffrey getting healthy, put McCaffrey out there. Hawkinson's playing, like just fire around. So it'll be fun. But yeah, I think that's our week 9. Oh, we do have one question we can answer here. So let's where is it? I'm blanking on it. Yeah, like if this is one QB, I don't know why you have 3 quarterbacks. I would say that like you don't need all 3. So I would say
drop him.
Yeah, if you're worried about Kyler, you have Jaden Daniels, you have Bonet. Like you could drop. I just keep Jaden Daniels. I wouldn't care about the other guys. Unless you're planning to play keep away in certain matchups is the only reason I would really have those guys roster. Because you don't need multiple quarterbacks, right? So it's just if it's one,
you don't.
Yeah,
but
could you trade him?
Yeah, I would try to trade him. You got New York Jets, not ideal. Bye week. Next 2 weeks, you can't really start Kyler. Certainly not over Jaden or Knicks.
No.
If Jaden has a bad matchup, I don't know. Seattle, Minnesota, Seattle, New England, Carolina. That's Kyler Murray's schedule. You cannot drop him, trade him, and just take a screenshot of that late season schedule and send it to the guy that you're trading him to. He's got to. I just thought you might want Kyler for your stretch run. Kyler Murray's going to be good for you. Are you going to play him over Jaden Daniels? Unlikely.
No,
unlikely.
I'm firing up Jaden Daniels. He's been awesome without the down weeks that Kyler's had, right? Like he's been pretty up or down. So yeah, I'm with you. I think you package Kyler as one of your players you're trying to upgrade him. So whatever position you need to upgrade, whoever needs a quarterback. Since you have 3 of these guys, I'm assuming like more teams have quarterbacks that they're like hoarding quarterbacks. This just seems like that type of league because I've been in those leagues. Yeah, see what you can get if somebody has like a bad QB1, like if they have Stafford or like I don't know he's not bad, but like a guy with a limited ceiling, right? You go after those guys. You try to package, make a deal happen, see if it works out.
Yeah. Maybe they have Flacco and they need Kyler Murray.
That would be nice. That's an easy one.
Yeah.
That would be an easy one.
They're down bad. We know, James. We know.
Yeah, it's such his life. But, yeah. All right, that's our week 9 show. This is our longest show we might have done all year. I think we're pushing an hour 45. We got cooking today, folks. We were stirring up the pot, having a good time. But yeah, waiver wire show tomorrow. It is happening. I'm not sure the time. It's TBD. Probably be like in this range of time. So we'll be dropping an article tomorrow. Go check out Jeremy's overreaction article that is posted on our Fast Football website. There's some good takeaways on there. And yes, you are more than allowed to overreact because that's the point of the article. A lot of good overreactions out there, right? So, but yeah, we're gonna have stuff coming out all week. So, if you haven't liked or subscribed already, please do. We appreciate all the support. I think we're up to 540 subs. So, like, that's a really good spot. We started at 0 back in January, so we're cruising. We love you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. So, yeah. So for myself, for Jeremy, for SC and Aaron, we are gonna head out, and we will see you all tomorrow.